Marvel, I am a level 5 mutant, starting with Gojo Satoru. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. At the beginning of Chapter 1, you will get the unlimited spell. In the blink of an eye, the scenery in front of him changed drastically. The surrounding environment changed from a gorgeous hotel to a dim prison, and the things around him changed from a few delicate bodies to dirty bodies emitting a foul odor. Just as Sumiu was wondering what happened. Clang. The sound of metal sticks hitting metal rang out, scaring Sumiu, and his body trembled instinctively. This body was extremely afraid of this sound and had developed a conditioned reflex. A moment later, several tall and strong black men walked in from the light and handed some turbid and sticky liquid into the metal prisons one by one. When it was Sumiu's turn, a black man said, "Hey, boss, this yellow monkey is still alive. It's really a cockroach." The bold boss with hideous tattoos all over his body glanced at Sumiu indifferently, and then warned his younger brother, "Don't touch him during this period. The trading time is coming soon. The dead organs are not fresh, and the price will be greatly discounted." Yes, I know. Regarding the boss's order, the black younger brother nodded and bowed to show that he knew it. Then he glanced at Sumiu fiercely, subconsciously touched the wound on his palm, and gritted his teeth and said, "Little ghost, you are lucky." Organ trading. After the few people left, Sumiu immediately understood something from their words, and then he felt an abnormal pain in his brain, and a large number of broken memory fragments poured into his mind. The original owner was also called Sumiu, an ordinary college student. A month ago, he suddenly awakened his mutant ability and used his mutant ability to escape from the house that was on fire intact. Although he survived the catastrophe, he did not have good fortune in the future. A few days later, his parents discovered his mutant ability and drove him out of the house. After that, he was hunted by a mysterious organization and accidentally abducted by a gang member of Hell's Kitchen and trapped in an unknown underground prison. The black man was the one who arrested him. When he resisted, he almost bit off a piece of meat from the black man's hand with his teeth. Because of this reason, he was also taken care of by the black man afterwards. Looking at the scarred skin under the lapel, it has already festering and is still bleeding slightly. I guess the original owner died for this reason. However, this is not the most serious crisis at present. In a week, the gang will trade with other underground organizations, and their batch of supply will be slaughtered like livestock and their organs will be taken out. Moreover, this world is the world he is familiar with. Mutants, Stark Industries. Isn't this the extremely dangerous Marvel world? Even if he escapes the next crisis, how can he avoid the snap that endangers the entire universe? Sumiu doesn't want to bet on a 1 in 2 probability. Moreover, is this a movie world or a comic world? If it is a movie world, there is still a possibility of struggle. If it is a comic world, Sumiu shuddered subconsciously. As for the original owner's superpowers, if the superpowers were strong, then he would not be abducted by the underground gangs. His ability is energy absorption. Yes, it is exactly the same as the Black Emperor's ability, but after the initial emotional awakening, the strength of the ability dropped significantly. Even the kinetic energy of the fist cannot be completely absorbed, not to mention bullets or even mutant abilities. What can such a weak ability do? Sumiu suddenly became desperate. He didn't expect that he would die just after crossing over. He was living well in his previous life, why did he suddenly cross over? Under strong reluctance, a voice sounded from Sumiu's ears. "Congratulations, you have awakened the 10,000 Worlds character template system. You have obtained the character template, Gojo Satoru. You have awakened the skill 6 Eyes LV1. Name, Sumiu template, Gojo Satoru energy absorption LV1, 78 out of 100, can absorb most of the energy, with a low absorption speed and energy storage limit. 6 Eyes LV1, 1 over 100, has a 360-degree long-distance perspective, can see the flow of energy, amazing dynamic vision, and allows the holder to perform delicate energy operations. Template fusion degree. 1% increase the character fusion degree to unlock new skills energy points. 0 when the template fusion degree reaches 100%, you will get a new character template. Sumiu immediately felt the difference. He could see a 360-degree perspective around him, and his vision was obviously extraordinary. He could even see the dust in the air clearly. And there were some blue lines interweaving in his sight, and the end of the nearby lines was the dim wall lamp behind him. It was obvious that what he saw was the current, which was also the effect of the six eyes being able to see energy. After experiencing the ability, Sumu showed joy on his face, because the first character template he got was Gojo Satoru. Although Gojo Satoru's evaluation has slightly decreased after he became 2.5 Satoru, it still does not prevent him from being one of the ceilings of the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. If he obtains Gojo Satoru's ability, even a part of it, he can easily escape from the prison. The most important thing is that Gojo Satoru's ability is awesome. After obtaining the system, Sumu immediately gained confidence in his future, but the most important thing at the moment is to escape from the gang prison. At this moment, he heard heavy footsteps coming, and saw the black man just now coming over. He vaguely remembered that the black man's name was Jim. Jim came to the prison where Sumu was imprisoned, smiled grimly at Sumu, and whispered, "Yellow monkey, I didn't expect your vitality to be so tenacious, so I'll let you live one more day, and I'll treat you well tomorrow." After that, he unbuttoned his pants and poured the smelly yellow liquid on the bowl on the ground. Looking at Sumu's indifferent expression, as if looking at a dead person, he suddenly felt extremely annoyed, and the injury on his palm was also slightly painful. However, thinking of the boss's words, he still endured it. He dared not disobey the boss's order, so he could only leave with a harsh word. Sumu looked at Jim's back quietly for a moment before retreating. Looking at the yellow liquid in turbid porridge scattered on the ground in front of him, although the yellow liquid was still a distance away from him and did not splash on him, he still retreated and decided to treat this black man well tomorrow. Although he was hungry at this time, Sumu would never drink the unknown porridge stained with yellow liquid. He began to study his new ability. He changed his position and used his body to block the dim wall lamp behind him. Under the cover of coughing, he secretly exerted force to shatter the glass covering it. He hid the glass in his sleeves, and then Sumu used his fingers to touch the wick. Success or failure depended on this. After obtaining the six eyes, he felt that he could control the energy more precisely, and his ability to absorb energy also changed. When the finger touches the wick, under the precise energy control of the six eyes, electricity and heat are absorbed by him, and at the same time, the energy points are slowly increasing. Energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1. Time passed slowly. Sumu used his body to block the wick behind him, and continued to absorb energy, and put the energy he gained into the Gojo Satoru character panel. After waiting for a few hours, the system changed. Template Fusion Degree. 5%, you have unlocked a new skill, unlimited spell. Congratulations, your skill energy absorption has been upgraded. Readers who like Gojo Satoru and American comics can collect it. Please support. Chapter 2, The Art of Transformation. Unlimited spell level 1, 1/100, interfere with atomic level matter, dominate space. The closer the object is to the user, the slower it will be, and it will never touch the user. Energy absorption level 2, 1/300, can absorb most energy. The absorption speed is the same as the upper limit of energy storage. When the fusion degree reaches 5%, the energy absorption is also promoted to level 2, and Sumu immediately senses the changes in his body. First of all, the energy absorption speed is faster, the body can store more energy, and there is one more spell engraved in the depths of the soul. Unlimited spell. Sumu immediately understood how to use the unlimited spell, but because the fusion degree was too low at this time, he tried it a little and found that he could only maintain it for 5 minutes, and could not maintain it for a long time. It was a world of difference from Gojo Satoru as a passive resident. However, his purpose was just to escape from the prison, and at this time his strength was enough to succeed. At this time, there were still a few hours before dawn, and for safety, he was still prepared to continue absorbing energy, increase the fusion degree and awaken new abilities. This was the only way to be safe. At this moment, a strange man's voice came from the side. Sumu turned his head and saw a middle-aged man whispering to him, "Hey, kid over there, you are a mutant." Seeing him looking behind him, he found that due to the energy absorption effect, the current was actually absorbed by his fingers, and the part where the two were in contact flashed a subtle light. Although dim, it was still very obvious as long as you pay attention. Seeing that Sumu didn't say anything, The man immediately said arrogantly, "You disgusting mutant bastard, you must have a way to leave, right?" "That's right, after all, you bastards have all kinds of abilities, and it's not surprising that you have the power to leave. Boy, listen carefully, when you are ready to escape, take me with you, otherwise I will tell the gangsters about your mutant identity. I think they will be very interested in mutants." Seeing that Sumu still didn't say anything, the middle-aged man was a little impatient, but in order to escape, he whispered to Sumu, "Damn mutant bastard, did you hear me?" Hearing the threat of the caged man, Sumu was unmoved, but a barely detectable arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. Because of the government's propaganda, ordinary people generally have malice towards mutants, thinking that mutants are dirty bastards. But they forget that mutants have the power to tear them apart easily. Sumu raised his head, lifted his white hair with his hands, revealing his exquisite blue eyes. He smiled brightly. "Sir, don't worry, I'll let you out right away." The middle-aged man smiled with satisfaction. "You're smart." He stopped absorbing electricity, walked towards the middle-aged man, then stretched out his hand through the iron fence and said to the middle-aged man, "Sir, please stretch out your hand. My ability is space jump. I will take you away from here right away." The middle-aged man immediately showed his joy. Sure enough, this mutant was just a child, and he would obey with a little threat. He had decided to call the police to catch this mutant bastard as soon as he escaped. After all, he could get a lot of bonuses for reporting mutants, which was enough for him to be free for a while. He didn't dare to report the gangsters who caught him. They were all criminals who killed people without blinking an eye. How could he dare to provoke them before he could even escape? As for Sumu wanting to harm him, how could that be possible? If his mutant ability was really aggressive, how could he be caught by ordinary gangsters? It must be an ability that needs to be used once and then rested for a long time, which poses no threat to him at all. If Sumu had not traveled through time, then what the man in front of him thought was absolutely correct, but at this time Sumu had awakened the system, which was completely different from before. When the palms of the two touched, an electric current that could not be detected by the naked eye was immediately injected into the middle-aged man's body, and he was immediately unable to move because of the strong stimulating current. Level 2 energy absorption can already achieve this level, but Sumu's purpose is not to electrocute a man. People who often electrocute people should know that electric current will produce a pungent burnt smell, which is easy to be detected by others. So Sumu stretched out his hand, used the energy stored in his body to strengthen his body, and then used his other hand to grab the middle-aged man's neck and twisted it hard. With a slight bone-cracking sound, the man's neck tilted and died immediately. It was already late at night, and the slight sound did not attract anyone's attention. Even if they heard this sound, they thought it was the sound of someone moving bones. After putting the man in a deep sleep, Sumu sat back in front of the lamp and continued to absorb energy. Everything was normal, as if nothing had happened just now. The system prompts continued. Energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1. After an unknown amount of time, through the window beside him, Sumu saw that the sky had slightly brightened. At the same time, Sumu, who was constantly absorbing energy and putting energy points into the template, heard the prompt from the system, Template Fusion Degree. 10%. You have unlocked a new skill, Art of Forwarding Kang. Art of Forwarding Kang LV1, 1/100. Create a strong section force with Kang as the center, and the maximum output can reach -infinity, similar to a small black hole. Sumu's eyes lit up, and various ways to use the Art of Forwarding Kang emerged in his mind. At this time, his system panel was, Name, Sumu, Template held, Gojo Satoru, Energy Absorption LV2, 67 out of 300, can absorb most of the energy, and the absorption speed is similar to the energy storage limit. 6 Eyes LV1, 1/100, possessing a 360-degree long-distance view, able to see the flow of energy, amazing dynamic vision, allowing the holder to perform delicate energy operations. Unlimited Spell LV1, 1/100, interfere with atomic-level matter, dominate space. The closer the object is to the user, the slower it will be, and it will never touch the user. Spell Forward Kang LV1, 1/100, create a strong section force with Kang as the center. The maximum output can reach -infinity, similar to a small black hole. Template Fusion Degree. 10% increase the character fusion degree to unlock new skills energy points. 12 When the template fusion degree reaches 100%, you will get a new character template. After the energy absorption was upgraded to LV2, Sumew felt that the energy in his body had been greatly improved, and with the improvement of experience, the limit of energy storage in his body was improved again. He could use the unlimited spell for at least 10 minutes without interruption, and could use the spell forward Kang several times. Sensing the strength at this time, Sumew was no longer in a hurry to escape. He wanted to give the gangsters here some surprises. And repay the black guy named Jim. Just at this moment, the door of the prison room rang again, and several familiar gangsters walked into the prison with ferocious faces. Please collect it. Please read it again. Chapter 3 The Blooming Blue Black Hole. Today is the day when the gangsters are making deals. They took out the keys to the prisons, opened all the cells one by one, and pulled all the people in the cages out and escorted them to the outside world. Everyone understood what was going to happen next, and they all became desperate. Some of them wailed in pain, some knelt down and begged for mercy, and some threatened. But in the face of all these situations, the gangsters did not react at all. As long as they cooperated, they would not be moved. If they did not cooperate, they would be beaten with electric batons. Soon the gangsters came to the cell where Sumew was, and the damn black man was among them. Seeing Sumew looking at him, the black man smiled at him fiercely and made a provocative gesture of cutting his throat. But he did not see Sumew's frightened expression, but instead gave him a sunny smile, which made him very unhappy. Yellow monkey, get out of here, today is your day. Sumew said calmly, yes, today is indeed a good day. Seeing that Sumew dared to talk back, the black man Jim immediately showed a gloomy look on his face, came to Sumew, and whispered to him, you may not know, I have already told Dr. John that your visceral removal surgery will not use anesthesia, you will die in pain and despair. Sumew smiled mysteriously at him, maybe you don't have the opportunity to see this scene. Being provoked again, although he didn't know where the yellow monkey in front of him got the courage to dare to provoke him, he was ready to give him a taste of color. Although he might be punished by the boss, as long as he didn't die, the punishment would not be too severe. Then he immediately twisted his fist and attacked Sumew's cheek fiercely. He had been unhappy with his handsome face for a long time, especially the calm expression pretended on this face at this time, which made him even more unhappy. Seeing this scene, the gang members behind Jim did not stop it. They watched the scene in front of them with interest, ready to taste the desperate wailing of the yellow monkey. However, what happened next shocked them greatly. Jim's fist landed in front of the yellow monkey, and he could no longer get any closer. They initially thought that Jim was joking and even teased him, Jim, stop playing, the deal is about to start, if you delay, the boss will definitely skin you alive. That's right, beat this yellow monkey for me quickly, I can't wait to see his screams of pain. No, I didn't. Jim looked at the man in front of him in fear. His dark brown pupils had turned into deep blue color without knowing when, and even his jet black hair had turned into pure white after a night. He was clearly smiling at him at this time, but the cruel arc of his mouth, as well as the ridicule and playfulness in his eyes, all represented that all this was his doing. What was going on? Jim thought of something. Could it be that the man in front of him was a mutant? At this time, the gang members behind him also found something wrong from Jim's answer, and after careful observation, they noticed more details. The veins on Jim's arm bulged and his muscles kept trembling, which meant that he had used up all his strength. And the closer he got to the palm of the yellow monkey, the more strange the trembling occurred, as if the space was seriously distorted, so that the light was refracted. Something was wrong. Everything that happened before their eyes was wrong. They all thought of something. Could it be that the yellow monkey was actually a mutant? Inexplicable fear enveloped their hearts, especially when they saw the indifferent smile on Sumew's face. They all instinctively took a step back. Looking at the black man who kept trying to get close to him, Sumew showed an encouraging smile. Come on, you can touch me if you try harder. But as soon as the voice fell, the smile on Sumew's face disappeared immediately, because Jim actually wanted to turn around and run away because of the fear of the unknown. How could Sumew let this black man escape? He still had a gift that he hadn't opened? The energy in his body circulated rapidly, providing a significant strengthening for his body. Then, at a speed that was invisible to ordinary people, he stretched out his hand to press the black man's head, and used his head to exert force to slam his body to the ground. Bang! The black man's head collided with the ground, making a chilling sound. Then the black man fainted because of the violent collision of his head. Sumyu would not stop like this. He used his strength and body to step hard on the black man's limbs. The huge force crushed the flesh and blood, and the flesh and blood flowed under Sumyu's feet and gradually spread. When Jim's right arm was crushed, he was awakened by the severe pain. He screamed violently and struggled continuously. But how could he resist Sumyu? He could only watch Sumyu crush his limbs and turn him into a complete useless person. Sumyu no longer looked at Jim. The gift had been delivered, which was enough, no matter whether he was satisfied or not. Seeing the terrifying man in the prison looking at himself and others in a bloody scene, his cold eyes woke them up from the daze caused by the violent impact. One of them reacted immediately and shouted loudly, "His ability must be very limited, otherwise how could he be caught by Jim? Shoot him, you can definitely kill him." Everyone else reacted immediately, "Yes. That's right, shoot." This gang member had obviously experienced many battles and was well trained. He immediately recovered from the panic and used the rifle in his hand to shoot at Sumyu. But something happened that made them desperate. They saw a large number of bullets floating in the air, twisting strangely, but they could not get close to the terrifying man at all. It was as if the distance between the two was not a few centimeters, but the end of the world. Unlimited technique. How is it possible? Why doesn't it work? What exactly is his mutant ability? Since he has such a terrifying ability, why was he caught by Jim before? They could no longer maintain their composure, and could only instinctively pull the trigger and shoot at Sumyu crazily. But these bullets could not get close to Sumyu at all, and he even had the leisure to help Jim block the bullets. Sumyu didn't want this black man to die so easily. He wanted him to sink in despair and pain. Then Sumyu looked at the gang members who kept shooting, and the other gang members who came to support after hearing the noise. Then he grinned, drew a mysterious arc, stretched out his hands in a relaxed manner, and held them slightly against each other. The technique is forward Kang. The energy in the body flowed in a special way, and a terrifying blue vortex quickly formed in front of Sumyu. All the bullets shot were swallowed by the vortex like a black hole. When everything was charged, boom! The terrifying blue vortex bloomed and flew forward at a high speed. Whether it was flesh and blood, or steel and concrete, they were all sucked into it by the powerful suction and disappeared. When everything calmed down, all the gang members in front disappeared, not even a piece of flesh and blood was left. P.S. The azure black hole is just an exaggerated adjective, not a black hole in the true sense. Of course, the protagonist will definitely be able to reach the level of a real black hole in the future. Please collect, please read, please invest. Chapter 4 Breaking Out of the Cage. Seeing the scene in front of them, the whole place was silent, and all the people who were still alive were watching this scene in shock. What is this? Can mutants do this? Devil. He is a devil. The nearest gang member trembled and took off the stumps that fell on his face, and then screamed and fled away. But before he could escape a few steps, he was shot in the head by the gang leader. The gang leader shouted loudly, "Why are you screaming? How could he release that move continuously? Let's shoot at him together to consume his physical strength. Jello, bring the rocket launcher. Don't forget, we must do this job well, otherwise Kingpin will definitely not let us go." The words of the gang leader immediately calmed down all the gang members. They looked at Sumyu, gritted their teeth, and started shooting crazily. It was as if the man named Kingpin was more terrifying than Sumyu, who had just released the terrifying blue black hole. Facing the bullets that were shot at like a rainstorm, Sumyu did not dodge. The consumption of the unlimited technique is calculated in time, not the strength of the attack. He rushed towards the many gang members with a cruel smile on his face, as if bathing in the breeze. Energy strengthens the body, and the various combat experiences from the Gojo Satoru template strengthen Sumyu's spirit. Facing a battlefield he had never experienced before, he did not feel any tension or fear, but the arc of his mouth became more and more obvious. He pushed his right foot backward, and the energy was first converted into mantra power, and then strengthened his body by the 6-eye micro-manipulation. Boom! The flesh and blood body crushed the ground and rushed towards dozens of gang members head-on. Hands, feet, joints, and all parts of the human body, under the inheritance of Gojo Satoru as superb skills and through the fine control of the 6 eyes, have become deadly killing tools. The gang members could not catch Sumyu's figure at all, and the stray bullets that happened to hit Sumyu were also blocked by the unlimited technique. A large number of gang members fell down like mowing the grass, unable to stand up again. Finally, Sumu came to the gang leader, smiled, put his hands in his trouser pockets, and walked slowly towards him. Looking at the mutants in front of him, the gang leader was filled with fear. The man in front of him had broken all his impressions of mutants. How could mutants be so strong? Question mark. If mutants were so strong, how could they be like rats crossing the street, and everyone wanted to beat them? I don't believe it. There must be some flaw in your ability. The gang leader roared at Sumu unwillingly, trying to use his roar to dispel the fear in his heart. Just at this moment, a gangster took out a rocket launcher and handed it to the gang leader. Seeing the rocket launcher, the gang leader's eyes lit up, and all the fear just now was dispelled by the rocket launcher. He snatched the rocket launcher from the gangster's hand, and then roared at Sumu fiercely, "Go to hell." Under the fierce fire, the rocket launcher rushed towards Sumu, and then exploded violently in front of his feet. The gang leader laughed loudly, shaking all over, "Damn mutants, damn yellow monkeys, die!" However, when the explosion faded, clear footsteps walked out of the smoke and dust, and an arm stretched out from the smoke and dust, suddenly pinching the gang leader's neck. The deep blue light as deep as the deep sea appeared first, followed by the eye-catching white short hair, and finally the dirty clothes that were completely inconsistent with the former and the wounds of all sizes all over the body. In the terrified eyes of the gang leader and his brothers, Sumu smiled grimly. The technique is forward to Kang. The blue vortex gathered in his hand again. Amid the screams of the gang leader, he first swallowed it completely, and then continued to fly forward at a high speed, breaking a huge crack in the wall of the prison. After doing everything, Sumu ignored the people behind him, used the energy conversion spell to strengthen his body, disappeared from the spot, passed through the gap in the wall, and rushed out of the cage, leaving only the remaining gang members who had lost their combat ability and many innocent residents whose cell doors were opened. After Sumu left, the whole place was silent. After dozens of seconds, huge cheers resounded through the prison, and many innocent people rushed to the gap called freedom. A few hours later, in an extremely luxurious room in Hell's Kitchen, dazzling crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, illuminating the scene below. The leader sat on a chair, his face seemed to be covered by shadows. He was 2 meters tall and burly, as if a mountain was sitting there. The man who reported to him at this time was a man in a strange tights. "Bullseye, you said the deal failed?" If an ordinary person, facing the man named Kingpin, would have trembled all over and even couldn't stand still, but Bullseye continued calmly, like a machine, "Yes, almost all members are dead, and most of them don't even have bodies. This seems to be because there is a mutant in the cargo this time, and all this is done by him." The room fell silent again until a minute later, Kingpin opened his eyes and said to Bullseye without emotion, "Can you kill him? As long as he's a human, I can kill him. Then I want to see his body within a week." "As you wish." At the same time, in a hidden corner of Hell's Kitchen, in an underground prison, a kind-looking Mediterranean man walked into the basement, followed by several surviving gang members and survivors who escaped from the prison. After arriving at the prison, Callison could no longer maintain the kindness on his face. Looking at the twisted and deformed metal cage, the broken floor, and the wall with a huge gap blasted out by an unknown attack, he couldn't help but ask, "You said this was all done by a mutant?" The people behind him nodded immediately, and one of the young innocent ladies came out with a longing look on her face, and said to Phil Callison, "Yes, that is a very handsome gentleman. He has unforgettable silver hair, deep eyes like a lake, elegant manners, and powerful strength. He is completely different from those irritable mutants. He is a real gentleman." Although the infatuated lady in front of him had a beautified charm, she still revealed some information about the mysterious mutant. He looked at the weird scene around him again, especially the huge gap in the wall in the pit on the ground for a while, and then muttered to himself, "The azure black hole vortex? An unknown powerful mutant, definitely reaching level 3, possibly level 4, and level 5 is not impossible." At this moment, a low voice came from the headset hanging on his ear, "Agent Callison, how is the situation?" "Director Fury, the mutants this time are very strong, and they can definitely be a part of your plan." "Well, good. We will do our best to search for him and try to win him over. We will try to draw him into our plan." Please collect this article and read it again. Chapter 5 Spider-Woman. After rushing out of the gangster's prison, he identified the surrounding environment through the original owner memory. As expected, the prison was in Hell's Kitchen. After confirming the location of this place, Sumyu rushed in one direction. His identity as a mutant had been exposed when he awakened. He was arrested by the authorities at this time, and the gangsters who arrested him would not let him go. Before killing the gang leader, Sumyu learned from the gang leader that these gang members should be Jinbing's men, and Jinbing was the underground emperor of New York. Jinbing, whose business was destroyed, would never let him go. Therefore, facing the capture and pursuit of both parties, improving strength is the most important thing at present. Because of the continuous use of the unlimited technique, and the use of the technique twice to turn Kang, and the energy in his body is on the verge of exhaustion, if he encounters a hunting team at this time, then he has no power to resist. Passing a corner again, a transformer appeared in front of Sumyu, and he was relieved. Electricity is the easiest source of energy he can think of, and it is also the guarantee for him to survive the early stage. The Six Eyes gave Sumyu extremely precise energy manipulation. At this time, he used his energy absorption ability to slowly absorb the current on the voltage generator, just reaching the limit of his speed at this time. Energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1. Looking at the constantly increasing energy points and sensing the body that was constantly being filled, Sumyu showed a satisfied smile. Sensing that the energy in his body was close to overflowing, Sumyu began to practice the skills he had acquired. The abilities given by the panel were initially only level 1, and they must be improved through uninterrupted practice. For example, the power of the skill released by Sumyu at this time was far less than the power released by Gojo Satoru. Only by continuous practice and upgrading the skills can he achieve a stronger power. Sumyu, who has a system, can even surpass the template prototype and reach an unprecedented level if he upgrades his skills to a sufficient level. Among the abilities he possessed at this time, the Six Eyes could not directly enhance his strength. Energy absorption was a skill that required constant practice and experience, and would be the fastest to upgrade. The particularity of the unlimited technique meant that upgrading the skill could only reduce consumption, and only when it was upgraded to a high enough level could it undergo a transformation. So Sumyu immediately began to practice the technique of Kang, which had a powerful attack capability, but the level at this time was too low, and it could only condense a very small black hole, and the speed was very slow. If facing an ordinary person, he could easily crush them, but if facing a mutant or other superpower owner, it would be difficult to hit them, and they would become useless. With the help of the Six Eyes, Sumyu condensed a blue black hole the size of a ping-pong ball, and constantly controlled the black hole to move around. At the same time, the system panel gave a prompt: experience +1 for the skill Kang, experience +1 for the skill Kang, experience +1 for the skill Kang. Level 1 skills are easy to upgrade. Sumyu hid in the substation, constantly absorbing electricity and practicing the skill Kang. After 3 hours, the system panel gave a prompt: experience +1 for the skill Kang, experience +1 for the skill Kang. Congratulations, the skill Kang has been upgraded. Level 2 of the skill Kang, 1/300, create a strong section force with Kang as the center, and the maximum output can reach -infinity, similar to a small black hole. At the moment of upgrading, Sumyu immediately felt that there were more ways to use the skill Kang in his mind. Although the skill introduction has not changed, the power is completely different and has undergone a huge change. After the skill upgrade was completed, Sumyu was about to test the changes in the upgraded skill when he suddenly heard the sound of the gun bolt behind him. "Hey, the unlucky guy in front, hand over all the money you have, or I'll let you taste the power of the gun." Through the Six Eyes, Sumyu had already noticed the approach of the man behind him, and had already released the unlimited technique. He turned around calmly, and at this time a middle-aged sloppy man was holding a pistol and pointing it at him, obviously wanting to rob him, which is also a feature of the United States. The middle-aged man wanted to try his luck nearby today, but he didn't expect to really find a prey. He immediately stepped forward, pulled the bolt, and ordered the man in front of him to hand over all the money on his body. Originally, he wanted to get the money and leave immediately, but when he saw Sumyu's specific appearance, the middle-aged man was stunned, then licked his lips, and smiled obscenely. "I changed my mind. Not only do you have to hand over all the money, but you also have to face the wall for me." Hearing the words of the sloppy middle-aged man, Sumu immediately couldn't stand it. He originally wanted to use the middle-aged man to experiment with his newly acquired skills, but now he thought about it and just raised it. Just as Sumu was about to release the technique to turn Kang, a violent sound of breaking through the air suddenly came from the side. Then, a slim figure wearing a black and white tights and a hood came from a distance, swinging spider silk, and then kicked the sloppy middle-aged man away. During the flight of the sloppy middle-aged man, several spider silks arrived first, wrapped him up, and then hung on the street lamp beside him. The hooded girl attached one side of her body to the wall of the house, and the other side of her body naturally fell down, and said to Sumu, "Sir, are you okay? Don't thank me, I am a good neighbor in New York, Spider-Woman." Spider-Woman. When Sumu saw this figure, he immediately recognized her identity. Isn't this Gwen Spider? Why is Spider-Man not Peter Parker, but Gwen Stacy? Could it be that this world is not a movie universe, but an unknown parallel universe? When Sumu was thinking, Gwen, who saw that Sumu did not answer, couldn't help but worry about this gentleman. Could he be injured? When she got closer, she found that the gentleman was covered with scars of all sizes. Although most of them had healed, they still looked ferocious. So she continued, "Sir, you are injured. Do you want me to take you to the hospital?" Gwen Sumu still had a good impression of her. When she watched Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, she had a good impression of this strong and brave Spider-Woman. No, I'm fine. But, seeing that Sumu refused her help, when Gwen was about to say something, the spider sense was activated. There is danger. She subconsciously wanted to catch the gentleman in front of her and take her to a safe place, but when she flew away on the spider silk, she suddenly found that she couldn't catch the gentleman. What happened? Then she heard the sound of the wall breaking and the sound of the house collapsing. Oh, damn. Seeing the huge lizard man completely destroy the substation, Gwen didn't think that the gentleman could survive the attack of the lizard man. Because of her negligence, an innocent gentleman died. He looked very young, only a few years older than herself. Please collect and read this article. Chapter 6 Beat Up the Lizardman. Gwen looked at the huge lizard monster angrily. Dr. Connorson, I will definitely defeat you this time and bring you to justice. Spider-Gwen attacked the lizard man. Although the lizard man's strength could easily break the concrete pillar, he was helpless in the face of the flexible Spider-Woman and could only bear Gwen's attack. However, although Gwen's attacks kept hitting the lizard man, they could not cause effective damage. The lizard man had thick skin and flesh, and had the ability to regenerate. Even when facing Gwen's attack that could kill an ordinary person with one punch, he still did not suffer much injury. Even if he suffered a minor injury, he recovered quickly under the regeneration ability. Gwen's strength was indeed enhanced in anger, but her physical strength was also consumed very quickly. It didn't take long for her to be out of breath. Maybe because she had just become Spider-Woman, Gwen was not familiar with her own strength and did not have much fighting experience. As her physical strength decreased, her speed and strength also began to decline, and finally gradually fell into disadvantage. Suddenly, the lizard man seized a flaw in Gwen, immediately grabbed one of her legs, and threw her out. With a loud bang, a human-shaped dent was smashed on the dilapidated wall beside her. Gwen had just gained extraordinary powers not long ago, and she was hit so hard that she couldn't recover from the intense pain. She struggled to stand up, but the terrifying green figure had appeared in front of her, blocking the dim lights of the street, leaving only a lightless shadow. A piercing sound of breaking through the air came, and Gwen was kicked away again. This time she completely lost the power to resist. Heavy footsteps came, and Gwen tried to raise her head and struggled to get up, but to no avail. She looked at the slowly approaching lizard man in despair, and the fear of death enveloped her. Dr. Connors, who turned into lizard man, had completely lost his humanity. She didn't think Dr. Connors would let her go. Am I going to die just after I got extraordinary powers? No, I don't want to die. But the severe pain from all over her body and the uncontrollable body told her that she had no power to resist anymore. She was about to sink into the abyss of death like the gentleman just now. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from a distance. The owner of this voice should have died, so Gwen thought she had hallucinations. But when she saw the lizard man stop, she knew that she had not heard it wrong. The gentleman just now was not dead. How could this be possible? But the voice that came later still made her confirm her guess, even though this guess was no longer possible. I said, didn't you hear what I said? Ugly monster. Seeing the lizard man turned around and looked at him, Sumyu's mouth corners hooked a hideous arc. You attack me directly, do you think I'm easy to bully? The lizard man looked at Sumyu with some doubts. How did the ant just now suddenly come alive again? Professor Knorson himself has a very high intelligence, but after becoming a lizard man, he is a monster with low IQ, and he is better at instinctive destruction than thinking. After seeing Sumyu resurrected, he just paused for a moment, and immediately rushed towards Sumyu, wanting to tear the ant in front of him to pieces. Gwen saw this scene. Although she didn't understand how this gentleman escaped from the attack just now, she thought that this gentleman was definitely not a match for the lizard man. So she immediately reminded him, run. But the next scene made her eyes widen in disbelief. Roar. The lizard man roared and rushed towards Sumyu. The lizard man's body looked very bloated, but his speed was not slow. The reason why he looked clumsy was only compared with a flexible Spider-Woman. In fact, his speed, agility and reaction ability were comparable to Spider-Woman, but his huge body slowed down his speed. But this was not without benefits. The huge body reduced his speed and increased his strength. At this time, he rushed towards Sumyu, making Sumyu feel like he was facing a truck rushing straight at him. But it was just a truck. Sumyu stretched out one hand forward, and the space around him was constantly overlapping, reaching an unlimited level, making it impossible for all objects to approach him. Unlimited technique. Under Gwen's gaze, the huge lizard man was about to hit the poor gentleman. With a gentleman's thin body, he would definitely be smashed into pulp. She couldn't bear to see what was about to happen next. However, the gentleman stretched out his hand and blocked in front of her. The thin arm faced the huge lizard man, just like a chopstick. But it was just a thin arm, but the lizard man couldn't move forward. What happened? What happened to this world? Why did I suddenly not recognize it? Gwen asked such questions continuously. Looking at the lizard man who kept attacking him in front of him, but couldn't move forward at all, Sumyu smiled brightly at him. Come on, if you work harder, maybe you can touch me. How could the lizard man endure such provocation? He burst out with stronger power, his muscles all over his body knotted, collapsed into a ball, and swung the strongest blow. But it still had no effect. It was just a few centimeters away, as if there was a world between them, and it was impossible to touch. After playing with the lizardman for a while, Sumyu also lost his patience, and the energy was transformed into pure mantra, which permeated his whole body. He wanted to win this battle. With the current template fusion level of Sumyu, even if the mantra strengthened his body, he was no match for the lizardman. However, with the help of the 6 eyes, the lizardman was just a big sandbag. The unlimited technique was always in the open state, and the lizardman could not touch Sumyu at all, but Sumyu could touch the lizardman at will. After the attack strengthened by the mantra, the lizardman was hit. In Gwen's shocked eyes, the gentleman who looked very thin was beating the lizardman violently and completely suppressing him. Through the memory of Gojo Satoru in his mind and the fighting instinct, Sumyu's every attack was just right, and the lethality was amazing. Every attack would cause considerable injuries to the lizardman. Bang! The foot collided with the lizardman's chest, and the lizardman was kicked out, breaking through several walls, and finally fell to the ground. But immediately, it stood up again. Even though Sumyu's attack just now caused it a lot of damage, it recovered immediately under the terrifying regeneration ability and could not have a significant effect. Gwen's pupils, which were once again filled with hope, dimmed again. That's right, she was defeated by this terrifying regeneration ability. Even if the gentleman was unexpectedly strong, he would be exhausted to death by the terrifying regeneration ability if he could not cause fatal damage to the lizard man. So she said to the gentleman, "This gentleman, Dr. Lizard, has a very strong recovery ability. If you can't defeat him in one go, you may be exhausted to death by him. Your damage must be faster than its self-healing speed to defeat him." Sumyu ignored Spider-Woman, but looked at the increasingly violent lizard man. After the lizard man's injuries recovered, he immediately rushed towards him. A hideous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he looked at the big guy in front of him and sneered, "Do you really think I can't do anything to you?" He stretched out his palm, his fingers slightly contracted, and then his voice became indifferent. "The technique is forward Kang. Please collect it, please read it again." Chapter 7 6 Eyes LV2. The azure vortex of terror appeared again, swallowing up everything around it. The moment he performed the spell Kang, Sumu immediately felt something different. The energy in his body was rapidly converted into mana and consumed. The azure black hole that could only condense into the size of a pineapple was now increased to the size of a basketball. Of course, with the increase in power, the consumption was much greater than before. However, despite the huge consumption, the performance of the LV2 Spellkang did not disappoint Sumu. The azure black hole swept towards the lizard man at more than twice the original speed. The lizard man instinctively sensed the danger, but because the distance was too close and the speed of the azure black hole was too fast, he could not dodge at all. Then Gwen, who was watching the battle from a distance, saw the scene in front of him. The lizard man's body twisted violently, and a large amount of fascia and flesh moved towards the center of his body. Then a terrifying azure black hole rushed out of the lizard man's chest, constantly devouring his flesh and blood until it was completely devoured. Even if the lizard man's body was completely devoured, the terrifying azure black hole still did not stop, and continued to devour everything around it. The air, the floor, the broken walls, and the street lights on the roadside. What frightened her was that the terrifying azure black hole actually flew towards her at a very fast speed. She was seriously injured at this time and could not avoid it at all. She could only watch and wait for death to come. Facing the lizard man, her heart was full of reluctance, but facing the terrifying azure black hole, she was about to lose her ability to think. The terrifying azure black hole was impossible to stop, swallowing everything around it. Even her thoughts had never been sent out. Gwen's mind was blank. However, when the azure black hole was still a few meters away from her and the terrifying attraction had already acted on her body, the vortex suddenly disappeared and disappeared. She also recovered from holding her breath and gasped violently. She had never been so close to death. She had never been so helpless. Is this really a great power that humans can control? Question mark. After releasing the art of turning Kang forward, Sumu looked at the completely disappeared lizard man and smiled with satisfaction. The improvement of the art of turning Kang forward was greater than he had imagined. In this way, at about LV4 or LV5, he can reach the level of Gojo Satoru. When the skill level is improved again on this basis, he will be much stronger than Gojo Satoru. When everything is over, Sumu looked forward and saw that his good neighbor in New York, Spider-Woman, had fainted due to serious injuries. Through the 6 eyes, she had multiple fractures all over her body, and her internal organs were slightly ruptured and bleeding. However, Spider-Woman has a self-healing factor, so she will heal quickly even if she is left alone. But now the location is Hell's Kitchen, and a big battle has just happened, so there must be a lot of eyes cast here. Although Sumu is not a good person, he still doesn't want to see the character he liked in his previous life die in front of him. 6 eyes experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1. With a prompt of the system, Sumu used the 6 eyes to check Gwen's physical condition, and accurately restored her dislocated bones with his hands so that she could recover faster. At this time, Sumu thought of something and took off Spider-Woman's hood and mask, revealing a delicate face from under the hood. Short blonde hair, delicate face, yes, this is Gwen Stacy. But Gwen at this time is more beautiful than the Gwen in the movie or animation. At this moment, Spider-Woman in Sumu's arms suddenly woke up. Looking at the handsome man who hugged her, she was a little confused at first. After waking up, she immediately jumped out of Sumu's arms and flipped over to a few meters away. However, her movements were slightly deformed because of her injuries that had not yet recovered. She accidentally fell to the ground and immediately struggled to get up. You. After Gwen stood firm, she suddenly found the white mask in the man's hand in front of her, and touched her face again, and immediately found that her true appearance was discovered. Oh my god, what should I do? Why did she just become Spider-Woman and her identity was immediately discovered by others? Gwen was very confused at this time and didn't know what to do. Unexpectedly, Gwen regained consciousness immediately, which surprised Sumu. Spider-Woman's self-healing ability should not be underestimated. He held the mask in his hand and said to Gwen, I didn't expect that our good neighbor Spider-Woman is so young. Are you still in school? Why did you take off my hood? Sumu tilted his head and then smiled brightly. Is it not okay? I'm really sorry. If you are unhappy, then hit me. Gwen. From Sumu's instant kill of Dr. Lizard just now, she already knew how much power the seemingly thin man in front of her had in his body, and how could she be the opponent of the man in front of her? Why did you kill Dr. Lizard? He only became murderous and cruel because of the mutation of the potion, but he is a good person. Gwen thought of something and asked. Facing Gwen's questioning, Sumi was not surprised. She was a kind girl. This is also one of the reasons why he likes Gwen. But he wants the person he likes to be kind, but he is not a kind person. Because he wants to kill me, then he must be prepared to be killed by me. Gwen wanted to say something, but still didn't open his mouth. Because from Sumi's perspective, he was not wrong, it was legitimate defense. But a familiar elder suddenly died in front of her, which still made her a little overwhelmed, so she stopped talking, just left a sentence, and flew away on the spider silk. Maybe you are not wrong, but I think I should go. Looking at Gwen flying away, Sumi shouted, your mask. Spider-Woman was slightly stunned, hesitated for a moment, and then returned to the original way, snatched the mask from Sumi's hand, and then left. Although I really want to punch that hateful smiling face, considering the difference in strength, forget it. The righteous Spider-Woman thought from the heart. Looking at the Spider-Woman who was going away, Sumi suddenly felt that traveling through time was also very good, at least she could interact with a character she liked in her previous life, and now they were no longer heroes that could only be seen from one side of the screen, they were living people with their own joys and sorrows. Sensing the remaining energy in his body, Sumi grabbed a broken wire and continued to absorb electricity. Energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1. While absorbing energy, the 6 eyes are constantly activated, giving Sumi the ability to precisely control energy. So the experience value of the 6 eyes is constantly increasing. After a few minutes, the system pops up a prompt box, 6 eyes experience +1, congratulations, the skill 6 eyes has been upgraded. Please collect, please read it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Level 5 Mutant. 6 Eyes LV2, 1/300, possessing a 360-degree long-distance vision, able to see the flow of energy, amazing dynamic vision, allowing the holder to perform delicate energy operations. After the 6 eyes were upgraded, the 360-degree long-distance vision was doubled, from the original 200 meters to the current 500 meters. Of course, this is the range of vision that can be clearly observed, able to clearly capture small targets, observe the specific flow of energy, and have a strong dynamic capture ability. If it is a blurry vision, then his vision is farther, and of course, he will be like an ordinary person, only able to see but not see clearly. In addition, upgrading to LV2 also awakens another ability, perspective. At this time, his 6 eyes can penetrate about 10 centimeters of steel plates and observe the internal situation. Unlike the white eyes, which have a black and white vision, he can see colorful things and see them very clearly. Isn't this possible? Sumi suddenly felt a little bored after easily getting one of the superpowers he wanted most in his previous life. Suddenly, Sumi saw several drones flying towards this place at a high speed from his expanded vision. Further away, a fully armed troop can be seen moving at high speed, following closely behind the drone. This is definitely not a revenge from Kingpin, nor is it done by the gang. How can they have such sophisticated equipment? This is the power of the army, and it should be a secret force that specializes in capturing mutants. After a short moment, the drone was approaching, and Sumi showed a cold smile to the camera on the drone, and then the azure black hole swallowed all the drones. After that, he used the power of the spell to strengthen his body and quickly left the place. Sumi learned from the original owner's memory that there were mutants who joined the military in this unit, and their strength should not be underestimated. Even if you have the unlimited technique, you are not safe in the face of all kinds of strange skills. He is growing at the fastest speed at this time, and there is no need to fight the army to death. What he needs now is to continuously absorb energy and improve the template fusion degree. When the reversal technique is awakened, there will be no worries at all. Note, the reversal technique has a powerful healing effect. In a hidden military base, a large number of screens are displayed on the wall. Suddenly, several screens went out almost at the same time, which means that in a very short period of time, at least several drones were destroyed at the same time. Noticing this scene, a middle-aged man with a colonel rank, a serious face and a sinister look asked the soldier, "What happened?" The soldier immediately stood up and reported to the middle-aged man, "Colonel Stryker, when we were arresting number 9527, a mutation occurred. The target seemed to have awakened for the second time and awakened other mutant abilities." Stryker's eyes flashed, and then he came to the screen and said to the soldier, "Call up the image before the drone was destroyed." The soldier immediately projected the image recorded before the drone was destroyed on the largest screen. The drone flew forward, and soon a tall and thin man with white hair appeared on the screen. When the drone stopped in the air and faced the white-haired man diagonally, the white-haired man grinned at the camera, and then a basketball-sized azure black hole appeared in his hand and flew towards the camera at high speed. The screen immediately went black, thinking that the drone was destroyed. The same situation was seen when the other drone videos were turned on. The unknown azure black hole was extremely fast and destroyed all the drones in the blink of an eye. Colonel Stryker looked serious. He had some impression of number 9527 because his ability was the same as that of an extremely powerful mutant decades ago. And that mutant was a terrifying existence that could absorb nuclear energy. But number 9527's energy was too weak, and even the kinetic energy of an ordinary person's punch could not be completely absorbed, so he didn't pay much attention to him. Unexpectedly, he appeared again at this time and awakened other abilities. After watching the video several times, the picture finally stopped on the azure black hole. This kind of black hole has a very strong attack ability and can easily tear metal and destroy drones. And 9527 also showed another ability, which is extremely wide perception. He was waiting for the drone to arrive at first, and he had obviously noticed the drone's whereabouts. And number 9527's white hair color and azure pupils aroused his curiosity. The video was turned again and stopped on that cold smile. Colonel Stryker showed a cold smile, and then issued an order, "Do your best to capture 9527, he is very valuable for research. Send test subjects 1085 and 1086 to assist in the capture. 1086's space attack should be able to break 9527's defense." After issuing the order, he muttered to himself, "Provocation? Then as you wish." Number 1407 Graymagen Road, Xavier School for Gifted Youth, a hidden laboratory. Jean Grey handed a report to Professor X. "Professor, we found the unusual movement of Stryker's troops. They seem to be deploying most of their forces to capture a mutant numbered 9527. 9527. For the same reason as Stryker, Professor X was equally impressed by the mutant named 9527 by Stryker. This reminded him of the most powerful enemy he had ever encountered, the Black Emperor, Sebastian Shaw. Now thinking about it, if it weren't for good luck, I'm afraid he and Eric would not be able to kill him at all. However, the Chinese young man named Su Mu, numbered 9527, had a very low upper limit of ability. He was also extremely weak among the first-level mutants, and his ability was almost non-existent. This also made him not care, and he did not immediately invite him to join Xavier's School for Gifted Youth. Unexpectedly, he saw his name in Stryker's target at this time. Professor X knew Stryker. If Su Mu had no value, he would definitely not spend a lot of energy to capture him. At this time, he concentrated his efforts to capture him. Su Mu must have undergone some mysterious changes. So he immediately used the brainwave amplifier to find Su Mu's location, wanting to invite him to join Xavier's School for Gifted Youth before Stryker. But why is there no Su Mu's consciousness? Obviously, I could clearly sense it before. You know, even Jean Grey, who has infinite potential, he can sense the existence of her consciousness. Could it be? Professor X suddenly realized something. Could it be that the mysterious changes in Su Mu were related to this? And it can actually isolate his consciousness from intrusion, and even make him unable to sense. Does Su Mu have the potential to be a 5th-level mutant? Or, he has become a 5th-level mutant at this time? Thinking of this, Professor X immediately said to Jean Grey, "Do your best to find Su Mu's trace. You must contact him before Stryker and Eric, win him over, and let him join Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Su Mu is very likely a level 5 mutant. Please read further. Please collect this." Chapter 9 Space Attack. At the same time, a slim and graceful urban girl crossed the street, entered a narrow alley, and finally walked into a room. In the room, a man wearing a strange helmet stood at the window, looking at the busy road with deep eyes. Eric, I found a new message. Stryker and Charles are looking for a mutant named Sumu, but his mutant ability is only the first level energy absorption. I suspect that his mutant ability has been awakened for the second time, which attracted their attention. Magneto did not look back, and continued to observe everything in front of him, especially those ordinary people without mutant abilities. Energy absorption. Raven, contact Sumu immediately, before them. The mutant that Charles and Stryker are paying attention to is definitely not ordinary, and pull him into the mutant brotherhood. Sumu naturally didn't know that because of his second awakening ability, he had been targeted by several forces. At this time, he had left Hell's Kitchen, and bought a new set of clothes with the US dollars donated by gang members, and took a shower in a hotel. Because he constantly absorbed energy and used it to strengthen his body, even though he had not yet learned the reversal technique, his injuries still recovered at a speed far beyond that of ordinary people. Even some of the scars left behind gradually faded, revealing his fair skin. Putting on a pair of round-frame sunglasses, he looked brand new, and there was no trace of his embarrassment in the underground prison. He was now a handsome man of 1.9 meters. After saying goodbye to the female store manager who kept winking at him, Sumu walked out under the regretful gaze of the female store manager. Because he was arrested by the military and threatened by Jinbing, he did not want to stay in one place for too long. Opening the system panel, Sumu looked at the energy point column. Energy points. 3,425. After several hours of continuous energy absorption, Sumu's energy points reached a huge 3,000. He immediately put all his energy points into the system, and the template fusion degree increased rapidly, finally stopping at 23%. The system prompt finally sounded again, template fusion degree. 23%, you have awakened a new skill, reversal technique. Reversal technique LV1, 1/100, transforms the negative energy of the cursed power into positive energy, with a strong healing effect. Finally got the reversal technique. After obtaining the reversal technique, Sumu's survivability will be improved again, and he will have a stronger self-healing ability than the lizardman. When obtaining the reversal technique, Sumu learned from the information in his mind that he could not use the reversal technique on others at this time, but could only heal himself. However, as the skill level increases, all of this will be solved, and he will even have the ability to revive the dead and restore the essence of things. At this moment, through the 6 eyes, Sumu observed a figure rushing towards him at a very fast speed. It was a strong man over 2 meters tall. He ignored the civilians around him at this time and rushed around, knocking a large number of civilians away. In a moment, there was a wailing sound around, and some civilians had even died. Further away, drones and most of the army had already gathered and were constantly rushing here. The strong man stopped. His muscles were knotted and his skin was a deep gray. A lot of blue veins were constantly wriggling under his skin, constantly transporting energy to his strong body. He was carrying a short man like a dwarf on his back. Unlike the strong man, the short man was extremely thin and weak, and his body was not even as thick as the strong man's arm. Sumu did not leave. Judging from the speed observed by the 6 eyes, the strong man was much faster than him. Unless he mastered the advanced method of the art of Kang teleportation, he would not be able to escape his pursuit. But unfortunately, the level of the art of Kang was still too low at this time, and he could not master it. The strong man stopped 10 meters away from Sumu, and his bare feet dug deep into the ground, completely breaking the ground and reducing his kinetic energy. A large number of scattered stones flew towards Sumu, but before they touched him, they floated in the air and could not get close to him at all. Seeing this, the sturdy man nodded and said, "White hair, blue eyes, and this strange ability. You are number 9527, right?" 9527. Sumu was very familiar with this number. Isn't this the number in the movie? Why did the sturdy man call him 9527? Seeing Sumu's confusion, the sturdy man didn't mean to explain. 9527, don't resist, come back with me, Colonel Stryker wants to see you. Don't resist in vain, you don't want to be twisted off your limbs and taken back by force. The sturdy man said as a matter of course, obviously not taking Sumu seriously at all, treating him as a prey that can be hunted at will. After that, he rushed forward to grab Sumu, but when he was still a few centimeters away from Sumu, he couldn't get close at all. Unlimited technique. Seeing this strange phenomenon, the sturdy man showed a ferocious face, and then said, "It seems that you have to suffer. It's just right before you join us, I will set some rules for you." Sumu raised his round frame sunglasses slightly upwards, revealing his delicate blue eyes. He used his little finger to pick his ear hole, put his little finger without earwax in front, and then blew it at the sturdy man. In the sturdy man's eyes, Sumu showed a bright smile, but his eyes were full of coldness. "Okay, I want to set rules. As long as you are willing to cry and apologize, I will spare your life. This is the rule." Rampant. Being underestimated by his prey, the sturdy man could no longer bear it, and waved his fist to attack Sumu, but it didn't work. Sumu put down his sunglasses and walked slowly towards the sturdy man. Then the sturdy man felt a huge force pressing on him, and his huge body, which he was proud of, had no power to resist under this terrifying force. At this time, the army in the distance also arrived. They shot at Sumu frantically, but the bullets could not get close to Sumu. In this way, in the hail of bullets, Sumu pressed the strong man against a wall. As he continued to move forward, the wall began to gradually break. "Aren't you going to cry for mercy?" Sumu said lightly. Looking at the enemy in front of him, the strong man finally realized that the target this time was completely different from his previous opponents. He was not an opponent at all. Fear fermented in his heart and filled his mind in a short time. So he didn't care about the plan and shouted, "Don't shoot yet." The moment the strong man opened his mouth, Sumu felt a familiar fluctuation. That was the power of space. Looking at the dwarf on the strong man's body, it was indeed the power of space he released. An invisible space blade flew towards him at a high speed. The speed of the space blade was so fast that he couldn't avoid it at all. Sizzle. The sound of flesh and blood breaking rang out, and in the strong man's hideous laughter, Sumu was almost cut in half by the space blade. Please keep reading, please collect it. Chapter 10, Reversal of the Technique. Although he knew that it would be a problem for the burly man to carry a dwarf on his back, the speed of the space blade was too fast, and even the dynamic vision of the sixth size could not fully capture it. Despite his best efforts to dodge, Sumu was still hit by it, but under the energy enhancement, his physical fitness has improved a lot. After dodging with all his strength, the space blade only passed through his waist, forming a wound as thick as a thumb. He immediately stretched out his hand and pressed forward, using Kang to create attraction behind the burly man. The huge attraction attracted the burly man, and the wall, which was already broken, could no longer withstand the huge pressure and shattered. The burly man was also knocked into the store behind him, causing many customers to scream. This kind of attack without charging could not cause any harm to the burly man at all, and even the dwarf lying on his body was well protected by him and was not injured at all. The sturdy man got up, patted the dust off his body, ignored the civilians around him, looked at Sumu, whose chest and abdomen were bleeding, and smiled cruelly. "Stupid guy, I want to see how you deal with this slash from space." After that, he walked towards Sumu, ready to fulfill his promise just now, twist Sumu's limbs and send him to Colonel Stryker. As for whether Colonel Stryker would blame Sumu for his death, this was impossible. Colonel Stryker hated mutants so much, how could he be angry about the death of his tools? On the rooftop nearby, two groups of people were confronting each other. One of them was Cyclops and Storm from the X-Men, and the other was Juggernaut and Mystique from the Brotherhood of Mutants. When they were looking for Sumu, they met and had a dispute. Cyclops put his hand on his glasses, ready to take them off at any time, and used laser beams from different latitudes to attack Juggernaut and the other. He said coldly, "Sumu is the fresh blood of mutants, and he must not be brainwashed by you." Mystique stood behind Red Tank, avoiding the rays that could attack at any time. Hearing Cyclops' words, she retorted, "Mutants are a more excellent race, and humans are just ants. Excellent mutants like Sumu should join the Brotherhood, and we will lead him to the right path. The right path is to destroy everywhere like a terrorist." Just as the atmosphere was getting more and more tense, Storm suddenly broke the current situation. "Look, Sumu's situation doesn't seem to be good." Everyone present was attracted by Storm's words. The purpose of their trip was to win over Sumu. If Sumu got into trouble, then this operation would end in failure. They looked down and saw the scene where Sumu was almost seriously injured by the space blade. "What? Unexpectedly, just when the dispute just happened, their target was almost killed by Stryker's men. Even if Sumyu's performance did not meet their expectations, the mutant they wanted to win over was about to be killed, which was something they could not tolerate. Cyclops was ready to take off his glasses, Storm's hair began to flutter, her pupils gradually turned wide, and Red Tank made a charging posture. They had to save Sumyu before the strong man killed him. Although this injury was serious, there were mutants with healing abilities among the mutants. With the power of technology, as long as they were treated in time, they could still be cured. However, the scene that happened next made them stop their actions and look at the severely injured Sumyu in shock. He actually had other mutant abilities. The strong man showed a mocking expression and walked slowly towards Sumyu. He was going to break Sumyu's limbs and then send him to Colonel Stryker. Colonel Stryker imprisoned a large number of mutants, many of whom had healing abilities. As long as Sumyu was still alive, he could be saved. As for dying halfway, then let him die. Colonel Stryker wanted mutants stronger than him, and the mutants defeated by him were of no value at all. However, he only walked a few steps before he stopped, pointing his finger at Sumyu in shock. You, how is it possible? Why have you recovered from your injuries? The distance was a little far, and the dust raised by the collapsed wall blocked his sight to a certain extent, so the strong man did not see Sumyu's specific situation. At this time, he walked out of the smoke and dust and came not far from Sumyu. He happened to see the thumb-thick wound on Sumyu's waist, recovering at a very fast speed. When he stopped, the last trace of injury was completely healed. He looked at the white-haired man in front of him in disbelief. The terrifying special defense ability, the attack ability that was as terrifying as a black hole, the good physical fitness, and the extremely strong self-healing ability at this time. Is this really a mutant? Even Magneto and Professor X are not so powerful. Could it be that he is the legendary level 5 mutant? The situation suddenly reversed. In the excited eyes of many mutants such as Cyclops, in the fearful eyes of many soldiers, and in the terrified eyes of the strong man, Sumyu grinned again. I regret it. Even if you cry and apologize now, I will not spare your life. You. The strong man looked at Sumyu and did not dare to step forward for a moment. His trump card was the space attack of the dwarf on his body, which was the only ability that could break 9527's defense. Once this ability failed, he would no longer be 9527's opponent. He immediately lifted one of the dwarf's hands on his shoulder, put it in front of him, and yelled at him, "Release the space blade again quickly and kill him for me." This time, aim and hit it head on. The space blade obviously consumed a lot of energy for the dwarf. After just using it, his whole body trembled and his face turned pale. However, under the pressure of the strong man, the dwarf still released the space blade towards Sumyu again. The dwarf's space blade consumed a lot of energy, but it was also very powerful and its speed was amazing. Sumyu had been prepared for this time, but he was still hit by it. One of his arms was cut so deep that the bone could be seen. If he hadn't dodged in time, his arm would have been separated from his body. Although the injury was extremely serious, Sumyu was not panicked at all. With the help of the reversal technique, his injury was recovering at a very fast speed. This time, the strong man saw the whole process of Sumyu's recovery. Seeing Sumyu recover from the fatal injury in just a dozen seconds, he no longer had the will to fight. He immediately threw the dwarf in his hand to Sumyu, fled far away, and ordered the soldiers around him, "Stop him." The strong man no longer had any courage to face Sumyu, so he chose to run away. Although he would be severely punished by Colonel Stryker if the mission failed, there was still a chance of survival, which was better than facing the monster in front of him. Looking at the dwarf flying towards him, Sumyu used his 6 eyes to observe that he could no longer release the space blade again. So he stretched out his hands, and under the desperate eyes of the dwarf, the terrifying pressure completely tore his body apart, and a large amount of blood splashed on the ground, and he couldn't even scream. However, there was not a drop of blood on Sumyu's body. The blood that was sprinkled on him floated in the air, just like the bullets floating around, unable to get close to him at all. Then Sumyu looked in the direction of the strong man. A large number of fully armed soldiers were shooting at him frantically, and the strong man had already run far away. If he ignored it, the strong man would definitely escape, so he made a decision. He stretched out his index finger and aimed it in the direction of the strong man, and then said lightly, "The technique is reversed, huh? Please read it again, please collect it." Chapter 11 White Devil. The forward rotation of the Kang technique can create a strong gravitational force, with a limit of negative infinity. By reversing the technique, the cursed energy, which is originally negative energy, is converted into positive energy. Not only can Sumu use the cursed energy to heal himself, but he can also inject positive cursed energy into the previous technique to obtain the opposite effect. The forward rotation of the Kang technique can create negative infinity attraction, so the opposite effect is positive infinity repulsion, which is the reverse technique. After obtaining the reverse technique, Sumu can theoretically release the reverse technique, but he is different from Gojo Satoru. He has not been trained since childhood to master the cursed energy, and his mastery of the technique is limited to the experience of template transmission. With a template fusion degree of only 23%, the experience he inherited is far from the level of being able to release the reverse technique. At this time, releasing the reverse technique depends entirely on his own control, but with the help of the 6 eyes, he does not think he will fail. The negative cursed energy in the body is multiplied to obtain positive cursed energy, and then flows according to the cursed energy flow method of the forward rotation of the Kang technique. At the moment when Sumu finished speaking, a tiny black-red singularity formed in front of his slender index finger. The spell power continued to be infused, and the singularity slowly expanded under Sumu's strenuous control. When it was about to be fully formed, the structure of the singularity suddenly became unstable. Seeing that the spell of Kang was about to fail, Sumu's mouth cracked, revealing a smile, and then he used the absolute control of energy through the 6 eyes and energy absorption to forcibly control the singularity. Crack! Black-red lightning continued to burst out from the singularity in all directions. The ground was hit by lightning and immediately shattered, forming a gully several meters deep and dozens of meters long. The soldiers around were hit by lightning, and their bodies immediately shattered under the twisted gravity, turning into a piece of bloody flesh residue. Even the caster Sumu was no exception. The terrifying black-red gravitational lightning affected his body. The body strengthened by the spell power and energy absorption immediately gradually collapsed, and then quickly recovered under the effect of the reversal spell. Just when Sumu's energy was almost exhausted and he was about to give up, the black-red singularity in front of his index finger finally stabilized and formed a black-red singularity the size of a mung bean. The strong man who had already run 1,000 meters ahead suddenly felt an instinctive fear. He turned around and looked back. His strong eyesight allowed him to clearly see the amazing scene in the distance. Everything around the terrifying man was collapsing, even his own body was no exception, but even so, a cold smile still appeared on the corner of his mouth. Among the stones suspended in the air and constantly annihilated, on the bodies of a large number of dead soldiers around him, and when the blood left on his forehead dyed his mysterious blue eyes red, a smile from the heart bloomed on his face. Boom! The terrifying black-red singularity, accompanied by black-red lightning that splashed due to instability, flew towards him at a high speed. The speed was so fast that even his supervision could not catch it. When he reacted, the terrifying black-red singularity had already arrived in front of him. The strong man subconsciously used his palm to block it, but under the powerful repulsive force released by the reversal of the technique, it had no effect at all. He could only watch as the black-red singularity shattered his arm, crushed his bones into powder bit by bit, and then passed through his chest and continued to fly backwards. Boom! After passing through the chest of the strong man, the black-red singularity continued to fly backwards for dozens of meters, finally forming a gully more than 1,000 meters long, and finally stopped. The strong man's body was completely shattered and completely dead. The time of the whole scene seemed to freeze. Except for Sumu, who was panting heavily, everything else was motionless. Everyone looked at the terrifying white-haired man in shock. Is this really something that humans can do? After a short rest, Sumu walked towards the fully armed soldiers who were still alive in front. Obviously one side was fully armed, and the other side was covered in blood, but it was the fully armed side that kept retreating. So, the SHIELD agents who had just arrived, the X-Men who were watching the battle, the Brotherhood members, and other civilians who failed to evacuate, all saw the absurd scene in front of them. The white-haired man with blood all over his body raised his head, opened his arms and laughed, and then his injuries recovered quickly. He took a step forward, and the well-trained soldiers took a step back, and so on, repeatedly. In the process, some soldiers even stepped on broken stones, tripped to the ground, and were hit on the head with stones, but he still did not dare to make a sound. for fear of attracting the attention of the man. But no one would laugh at him, because no one dared to show themselves in front of the terrifying white-haired man. Until the white-haired man slowly disappeared around the corner step by step, everyone at the scene began to breathe again, gasping for air. Even the mutants were no exception. At this time, members of all forces had only one idea: report the matter and win over Sumu to join their organization. He can be confirmed as a newly born level 5 mutant. No matter which force he joins, he will destroy the current balance. In a store, a middle-aged man gasped and covered the camera in his hand tightly. He took the pictures of everything that just happened. Eddie Brock believed that what just happened was definitely the most explosive news this year. Whether it was a terrorist attack in Manhattan, the most prosperous district in New York, killing many civilians, or a fight between mutants, or the powerful mutant ability of the terrifying White Devil, it would cause an earthquake in the news industry. Sumu turned the corner and immediately used his remaining energy to pull open the manhole cover and jumped down. Entering the sewer, he moved quickly forward, and the broken wounds on his body were still bleeding during the movement. The consumption of the reversal of the technique was more than he thought, especially when he forcibly released it. The consumption increased exponentially. Just using it once almost consumed all the energy in his body. If he hadn't used the remaining energy to recover some of his injuries and create the illusion that he still had some energy left, then facing many fully armed soldiers would really be dangerous. Level 2 energy absorption can't let him ignore firearms when he loses the unlimited technique. Just as Sumu continued to walk forward, Liu Ian suddenly caught something, but because of the exhaustion of energy, he could not immediately open the unlimited technique. However, he tried his best to dodge and still avoided the next attack. A dagger brushed Sumu's body and flew out, piercing the concrete floor of the sewer. Sumu turned around and saw a man in a strange tights standing in front of him, with 4 daggers between his fingers. It was obvious that the daggers just now were his work. Please read it again, please collect it. Chapter 12, Killing Bullseye. Looking at the strange tights of the man in front of him and the strange bullseye on his forehead, Sumu immediately recognized his identity: Bullseye. The dagger just now was obviously thrown by him. Sumu immediately remembered Bullseye's identity. In many versions, he served Kingpin. The reason for attacking him at this time must be because of Kingpin's order. If it were someone else, even other superhumans, he would be pierced through the body with a dagger using his superb skills, but he was different. Even if his energy was almost exhausted at this time, he could still use his 6 eyes to capture the attack of the dagger. However, who gave him the confidence? Who actually thought that he, a mortal who mastered the skills, could assassinate him? Bullseye looked at the white-haired man in front of him. He was very strong, stronger than expected. The party aimed at just now was the head of the white-haired man, but even though he was obviously exhausted at this time, he still dodged the dagger he threw. You have to know that the dagger he used was filled with part of adamantium, which is extremely hard and can destroy almost anything. With the help of adamantium, the dagger he threw was even close to the speed of sound. The white-haired man in front of him could dodge. He obviously had other abilities besides special ability, super physique, or other means. If the man in front of him was still in his peak state, he would not dare to get close, but at this time, it was completely different. It seems that you have been seriously exhausted after releasing that terrifying attack just now, and even your reaction ability has been greatly weakened. If you're in your prime, I would definitely not be your opponent, but now. It's really pleasant to kill a strong man with my own hands. Bullseye trembled with excitement. As a top killer, how could it be more pleasant to kill a strong man who is high above? But to his surprise, the man in front of him did not panic at all, as if the threat from him did not exist at all. It's like, even a sick tiger can still kill a cat that comes to provoke. Moreover, the gap between them is even greater than the gap between a tiger and a cat. He immediately had an ominous premonition and immediately threw the adamantium dagger in his hand, but most of them were dodged by the man in front of him. However, one dagger still hit the man, which made him relax a little. At this moment, he was no longer as invincible as before. Sumu used the remaining energy to strengthen his body and dodge the attack. Through the 6 eyes, he immediately noticed the special material of the dagger, and understood that it was this incredibly hard dagger that allowed Bullseye to easily break through his defense. However, he was still not panicked at all. How could a mortal dare to challenge the gods? Not everyone is Iron Man. He asked calmly, "Are you sent by Kingpin to assassinate me?" Bullseye did not answer, but threw the dagger faster, and even took out a pistol to shoot at him, but was captured by the Six Eyes and then easily dodged. Even if Bullseye did not answer, Sumu still observed the details of his body through the Six Eyes and confirmed his guess. Then he continued, "If you tell me the location of Kingpin, then I will spare your life, how about it?" But Bullseye still did not answer, and even attacked more quickly, and laughed. "You can't protect yourself now, and you still want to spare my life, go to hell." After that, he took out a rocket launcher from somewhere and shot at Sumu. When the rocket launcher exploded in front of Sumu, and the huge flames engulfed Sumu, he breathed a sigh of relief. He should be dead. I didn't expect that even if the white-haired man was seriously exhausted, he would still be so difficult to deal with. Then he showed an excited smile. Killing a strong man made him extremely happy. "You seem very happy? Do you think it's over?" Suddenly, the voice coming from the fire froze the smile on his face. He suddenly heard the sound of the wall breaking, and then the voice of the devil sounded again. "I'll give you one last chance. Tell me the location of Kingpin, and I will let you die more happily." He looked in the direction of Sumu in disbelief. The smoke dissipated, and the man appeared in front of him intact. At this time, a large number of shrapnel floated in front of him, just like the previous bullets, unable to get close to him. And he stretched one hand into the stone wall of the sewer, and the dim lights around him became dimmer. At the same time, the injuries on the white-haired man were recovering rapidly. Bullseye immediately realized that he was absorbing electrical energy. You have other mutant abilities." Realizing this situation, he immediately ran away with all his strength. Damn it, he actually has other mutant abilities, and it's energy absorption that can quickly restore energy. Who can still be his opponent? Damn Jin Bing, I won't take this order. Whoever wants to die can come. However, the terrifying attraction came from behind, and even though his physical fitness was far superior to that of ordinary people, he still had no power to resist. Under the desperate gaze of the Bullseye, he floated in front of Sumu, and then his limbs were cruelly twisted by the terrifying gravity, and he no longer had any power to resist. At the moment when the rocket launcher flew over, Sumu immediately used the energy of absorbing the flying knife and the energy supplemented by the sun to perform the unlimited technique, then strengthened his body, stretched out his arms to penetrate the wall, grabbed the wires and cables in it, and absorbed electrical energy. A large amount of electrical energy was absorbed, and the reversal technique and the unlimited technique were restarted, and he returned to his prime again. The adamantium dagger on his body was squeezed out by the growing flesh and blood and fell to the ground, and his injuries were healed in an instant. Seeing Bullseye running away, Sumu smiled brightly, then stretched out his fingers and clenched them slightly, and teased, "Take advantage of the heavens." After attracting Bullseye and twisting his limbs into a knot, Sumu asked again, "How is it? What do you think? Tell me obediently, I will make your death a little easier." Bullseye looked at the white demon in front of him, and the delicate blue eyes under the white eyelashes looked at him with a sneer. For some reason, he saw a strange black scarlet in those beautiful eyes. After completely tearing Bullseye's twisted body apart, leaving only some adamantium bones, Sumu finally confirmed that he did not know the location of Kingpin. P.S. Bullseye has some adamantium bones implanted in his body. Kingpin is an extremely cautious person. His residence is different every day, and even his closest confidants do not know the specific itinerary for the next day. Sumu put his hands in his pockets and walked slowly forward. The floating blood and shrapnel behind him fell to the ground quickly. Although it is a pity that we cannot know the specific location of Kingpin, it doesn't matter. As the Six Eyes are constantly upgraded, the observable area and perspective abilities will continue to increase. When his observation range covers the entire New York, a mere Kingpin can be crushed to death with ease. The cables in the sewer walls are constantly pulled out under the control of gravity, floating around Sumu for him to absorb energy. Energy points +1, energy points +1, energy points +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1. Energy absorption LV2, 233/300, able to absorb most of the energy, and the absorption speed is similar to the energy storage limit. Energy absorption is about to reach LV3, and this is also his first skill to reach LV3. What kind of changes will happen to the skills after LV3? Will there be an unknown transformation? Please read and collect it. Chapter 13 News that continues to ferment. In addition to energy absorption, Six Eyes is also gaining experience at a very fast speed. These two skills are permanent, consume the least, and are the easiest to upgrade. While Sumu was constantly absorbing energy, practicing skills, and strengthening himself, the outside world also underwent earth-shaking changes. First, Stark, who had been missing for 2 months, returned and announced the closure of the weapons development department at the first time, causing Stark Industries' shares to shrink significantly, causing an uproar. Secondly, a terrifying green-skinned monster appeared at Calvary University. The military went to capture it, but it was no match for the green-skinned monster. After being wantonly destroyed by the green-skinned monster, it left in a chic manner. However, these two pieces of news that should have attracted attention and should have been the headlines in any issue of the newspaper were squeezed out by another piece of news. Because of this news, people's understanding of mutants has been refreshed. On this day, they thought of the fear of being dominated by mutants. This news was written by a reporter named Eddie Brock from the Globe. He said that he was at the scene and witnessed a battle between the two powerful mutants. He also saw the almost unsolvable mutant ability of the White Demon and the strong sense of oppression. The mutant with the ability to strengthen his body is already strong enough. I believe that he will not be much inferior to the Green Monster, but he has no power to fight back against the White Demon. Mr. Eddie Brock wrote. He explained the concept of mutant level in detail in the news and said that the White Demon is definitely a level 5 mutant. At the end of the news, Eddie Brock wrote, "The terrifying black singularity, even the splashing power is enough to tear everything apart, and no material can resist it when it hits the front." It can be clearly seen that the White Demon is not proficient in that ability, but it also means that he has more room for growth. If he waits until he is fully adapted, he will be a more terrifying existence than Magneto. After this report was published, it quickly fermented in society. Some people said, "Didn't the government say that mutants are not a threat? Why do such powerful mutants exist?" Some people were filled with fear. If he continues to grow stronger, he can easily kill all humans. The government must capture him as soon as possible. There are even worshippers of the White Devil. He is God. He is an angel who has come to the world. We should worship him as our Lord. There are also voices different from these mainstream voices. They are oppressed mutants. They use various hidden IPs to speak on major social platforms. He is the savior of mutants and the leader of mutants. The government has been oppressing mutants indiscriminately and using mutants for inhumane experiments. The leader will lead us to resist. Yes, we will follow him forever. In a hidden luxurious room in Hell's Kitchen, Kingpin looked at the newspaper in front of him with an ugly face, focusing on the terrifying black singularity and the terrifying gully that was left behind for 1,000 meters. Isn't it just an ordinary mutant? Why is he so strong? As time passed, he became more and more uneasy because Bullseye had not returned. Kingpin did not rest for a whole day, sitting in a chair and waiting until dawn, when the sky was white. He finally confirmed that Bullseye had completely failed, and was even dead. Having sat on the throne of the Underground Emperor for decades, Kingpin had not felt this feeling for a long time, this feeling of powerlessness and fear. Even if he was the Emperor, he was still just a mortal. How could he resist the gods? Tens of thousands of meters high, inside a huge aircraft carrier. Nick Fury stared at the information in front of him, motionless, and Coulson stood carefully beside him. The boss had maintained this posture for a long time. Suddenly, Nick Fury closed the information, raised his head, and looked at Coulson with sharp eyes. "Agent Coulson, use all means to find him and win him over. He will be the most important pillar of the Avengers plan." "Yes, sir." The simulated breeze in the cabin blew, lifting a corner of the information, revealing several high-definition photos. The azure black hole, the black and red singularity, the mysterious space defense, and the last White Devil with a wild laugh. After Coulson left, Nick Fury's voice rang out again in the room. "Such a dangerous mutant must be monitored by S.H.I.E.L.D. In the hidden office, you can occasionally hear faint screams from the outside world, which are the miserable and painful cries of mutants being experimented in the laboratory. Colonel Stryker looked at the information in his hand, his face livid. Damn it, damn it. Gather more forces for me and catch this damn mutant bastard." In a remote location in New York, the two most powerful forces of mutants gathered. If the government knew that the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants had a secret meeting, the threat level of the X-Men would definitely increase by several levels. Magneto, wearing a strange helmet, and Professor X, who was sitting in a wheelchair, looked at each other across the conference table. Magneto took the lead and said, "Charles, if we can master his power, then we will definitely be able to kill all humans in due time, and then we will create a peaceful world where only our mutants exist." Hearing Magneto's words, Professor X shook his head and said to Magneto with a serious face, "Eric, you are too radical. Humans and mutants can definitely coexist peacefully." "Peace? Are you talking about the damn government's crazy persecution of mutants and the cruel experiments that are being carried out all the time? I will make them change." Hearing the words of his former friend, Magneto looked at him disappointedly. "You are too naive. Blood must be repaid with more blood." The members of the Brotherhood of Mutants behind him looked at Magneto with admiration, the leader who led them to resist. "Your idea is wrong. That's just a small number of people. You can't deny all mankind because of a part of the sin." Many X-Men members, like Professor X, looked at Magneto seriously. Only the kind Professor X can help mutants achieve a better future. The conversation was not going well. Magneto stood up angrily and walked towards the door. Many members of the Brotherhood of Mutants followed him. "I will find him and lead him to the right path. Eric, I will stop you. Charles, you will regret it." Sumu did not know what happened in the outside world. He was currently planning his future. Unlocking templates requires energy, and using skills requires energy. In the final analysis, the energy is too little. If you only rely on absorbing electrical energy, it will not last long and may be discovered by the authorities. So the most important thing at present is to find a stable source of energy. Regarding the Infinity Stones, he is too weak at this time, and the risk of obtaining the Infinity Stones is too great. So there is only one choice at present, the arc reactor. At the same time, after absorbing electrical energy through energy absorption for a long time, the system prompts again, "Congratulations, energy absorption upgrade. Do you have any recommendations for character templates? It is best to have a character with more skills, handsome special effects, and well known. Finally, please read and collect it." Chapter 14 Don't Kidnap Me Because I Have No Morals. Energy Absorption Experience +1, Energy Absorption Experience +1, Energy Absorption Experience +1. Congratulations, energy absorption has been upgraded. Energy Absorption LV3, 1/1000, can absorb most of the energy, with a high absorption speed and energy storage limit. After the energy absorption was upgraded, Sumu immediately felt a huge change in energy absorption. First of all, the types of energy that can be absorbed have increased. Nuclear energy that could not be absorbed before, and even magic energy, can now be absorbed. In addition, the speed of energy absorption has also become faster, at least 3 times faster than before. And the energy storage limit has also increased by 3 times than before. At this time, he can at least maintain the unlimited spell for half an hour, use more than 6 full-strength spell forward Kang, or 3 times the lowest power spell reversal he. From the information obtained from the character template, it is known that the minimum power of the spell reversal he is at least twice the maximum power of the spell forward Kang. This not only means more terrifying consumption, but also more amazing lethality. However, Sumu knew that he was lucky to perform the reversal technique he before, and he might not be able to perform it successfully again. In addition, the previous reversal technique he was not complete, and a large amount of energy was dissipated. If he used the reversal technique he in that way, he might run out of energy after 2 times. Therefore, it is best not to use the reversal technique he before gaining experience and usage of the reversal technique he through the character template. Consumption is secondary, and it would be bad if the uncontrolled dissipated energy hits the brain. The current reversal technique has not yet reached the level of regeneration after losing the brain. In addition to the increase in energy reserves, the acceleration of energy absorption speed is also of great help to Sumu. If it goes as expected, he can now withstand the shooting of small caliber rifles and completely absorb the kinetic energy of the bullets. In this way, when the unlimited technique is not activated, Sumu is not afraid of sneak attacks. Unfortunately, the level of the unlimited technique and the reversal technique is too low, and it is unknown to what level to reach the level of Gojo Satoru. That is, when the reversal technique is constantly repairing the brain, the unlimited technique can be maintained for a long time, and it can select threatening targets by itself. and if the skill level is improved again on this basis, then even the poison attacks that Gojo Satoru cannot select can be selected by itself, and even space attacks can be resisted. With a continuous improvement of skills, he will surpass Gojo Satoru and reach a realm that Gojo Satoru has never reached. Imagining the future, Sumiu was excited and even looked forward to activating the character template with the ability to jump to the plane in the future and go to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. At that time, using the same moves to defeat the invincible Gojo Satoru, it would be a very interesting thing to think about. Continue to absorb electrical energy, replenish the energy in the body, and push the template fusion degree to 27%, and then leave from the sewer. The exit of the sewer is located in a remote alley. Just when Sumiu was about to go to buy a new set of clothes, he suddenly saw a girl who was looking at him in shock. The girl had green hair and looked dirty, weak and helpless. Of course, this is through the naked eye observation. If you observe from the perspective of 6 eyes, you can find the huge green energy hidden in her body and the iron objects around her that are ready to move. Sumiu immediately recognized the identity of the girl, Polaris. Polaris is the daughter of Magneto, whose real name is Lorna Dane. She has the power to control magnetism. At her peak, she can even control the Earth's magnetic field. She is a powerful mutant who is not inferior to Magneto. I didn't expect to meet her here. Sumiu was a little surprised about this, but when he thought that this universe was not any universe he knew, but an unknown parallel universe, he immediately felt that it was not surprising. Marvel's various universes have too many versions, and no matter what happens, it is not strange. Sumiu didn't intend to pay attention to Polaris, but Polaris obviously would not let him go. She recognized the man in front of her, who is called the most powerful mutant in the world by the media, the biggest threat to the world, and the white-haired devil. He was also called the savior and leader by mutants. No matter what the name is, it means that the man in front of him is extremely powerful, even more powerful than his father, Magneto. Seeing Sumiu leaving, she subconsciously wanted to use her power to stop him. She used her power to unscrew the metal pipe fixed on the wall and flew towards Sumiu, trying to block him in front of him. But Polaris looked at the scene in front of her in great shock. She saw that the metal she controlled could no longer be manipulated when approaching the man in front of her. It just stopped behind the man and could not move forward at all. But she was not disappointed, but even happier. The stronger Sumiu was, the more likely he would lead the mutants to be liberated from human oppression. She just smiled and wanted to say something to Sumiu, but the smile on her face froze immediately. Sumiu turned his head slowly, and there was no emotion in his azure eyes. Being stared at by the azure eyes like the god of death, Polaris immediately felt a huge pressure, as if the god of death had placed the sickle of harvesting souls on her neck, ready to harvest her soul at any time. Then she heard a cold voice coming from the front, "Live well, isn't it good?" After hearing this whisper like the god of death, Polaris shuddered violently, came back to her senses from the trance, and immediately said, "I have no ill will towards you, I just want to follow you and fight against a human government with you." But Sumiu did not respond, and walked slowly towards Polaris. The slow steps gave Polaris extremely strong pressure, as if the irresistible force was pushing her into the abyss of death. Under the fatal threat, she subconsciously used her ability to control a large amount of metal to attack Sumiu. But all these metals fell in front of Sumiu and could not move forward at all. It was not until this time that she understood the weight of the white-haired demon. The white-haired demon was completely different from the mutants she had known before. It was a terrifying force of another dimension. Even if Polaris used all her strength to stop Sumiu from approaching and wanted to stop the approach of death, it did not work. Then, she was forced into a corner by Sumiu, and the strong pressure pressed her against the wall, unable to move. Sumiu used energy to strengthen his body, ignoring the North Star in front of him, and clenched his fingers deeply into the largest metal pipe, then threw it forward. The metal pipe was given huge kinetic energy by the seemingly thin arm, and it sank deeply into the hard wall, right next to the North Star's ear. "Beautiful lady, this is a warning, your luck will not be so good next time." Then he gently slid his index finger, and the floating metal around ignored the North Star's manipulation and sank into the wall around her, wrapping her in it. Watching the white-haired man yawning and walking away slowly with his long legs as he came, Polaris plucked up her courage and shouted, "You are so strong, you can do a lot of things, you can save the mutants, why don't you do anything?" After a moment, just when she thought she was being ignored, she heard an indifferent voice, What does their suffering have to do with me? The white-haired demon in front turned around, revealing a handsome profile and deep blue eyes, and smiled. Don't kidnap me, because I have no morals. Please read and collect this article. Don't forget to invest. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15: The White-Haired Man Entangled in Electric Current. Without paying any more attention to Polaris, Sumu put on sunglasses and walked out of the street. As soon as he walked into the street, he found himself being pointed at by others and heard the discussion of passers-by around him. White hair, and wearing sunglasses, he can't be the white-haired devil. A passerby shook his head and said, it is probably an imitator. How can any passerby be the white-haired devil? Sumu was a little confused. What is the white-haired devil? Then he saw a big screen on the side of the street. After watching for a while, he immediately understood something. He became famous? On the big screen, a man in his 30s was talking freely. At that time, I was hiding in a store nearby, only a dozen meters away from the white-haired devil, and I witnessed his battle with another mutant with my own eyes. I am sure that he is definitely more powerful than Magneto and is the most powerful mutant in the world today. Question mark? Sumu's forehead immediately showed several black lines. What's wrong with this damn reporter? Although he will definitely become the strongest mutant in the future, it is still in the initial stage. He is not the most powerful mutant now. Not to mention that the unlimited art cannot resist mental attacks at this time. The Dark Phoenix alone is much stronger than him. How can he develop silently when he is described as the strongest mutant at this time? Looking at the name tag below the man, the following letters are written on it: Eddie Brock. Sumu felt that this name was somewhat familiar. After thinking carefully, he finally remembered that this was Venom. Good, cute little thing. I will love you well when we meet in the future. Then Sumu ignored Eddie Brock and looked at the tallest building in Manhattan. That is one of the most famous buildings in the Marvel world, Stark Tower. If you want to get the arc reactor, you must contact Tony Stark. In this way, going directly to Stark Tower is definitely the fastest choice. It just so happens that Tony Stark has just returned and is about to clash with Obadiah Stane. Saving his life in the conflict should be worth an arc reactor, right? Of course, if Tony Stark is still unwilling to hand over the arc reactor even so, then he has already made one on him. Sumu thought so. Putting on the hood of his white sweater, Sumu slowly walked towards the Stark building. The light around him was slightly dim. Various energies that ordinary people could not observe were constantly poured into his body under the fine manipulation of the second level 6 eyes and the effect of the third level energy absorption. Although the absorption was slower than direct contact with energy, it was more durable. In this way, not only did he greatly improve his combat endurance, but he also increased the efficiency of collecting energy. The system's prompt sound continued: energy points +1, energy points +1, 6 eyes experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1, energy absorption experience +1, energy absorption experience +1. Stark Building is located in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. It is the tallest building in the vicinity. Its duck-like top is very eye-catching and fits Tony Stark's flamboyant personality. When he arrived at the Stark Building, it was already late. Sumu walked towards the Stark Gate, but was stopped by several security guards. The security guard stopped him and asked, "Hello, sir. Please show me your ID." Sumu naturally had no ID. Although he knew that the security guards would not let him pass, he still said honestly, "I have something important to discuss with Tony Stark. Please go and inform him." Sure enough, after hearing Sumu's words, the security guards were stunned and looked at each other. They wanted to laugh, but their top professional ethics did not let them laugh out loud. The security guards suppressed their laughter and said, "Sir, today is not April Fool's Day. This is not funny." Sumu knew that this would happen. He was a little annoyed. He rubbed his soft white hair and continued, "Everyone, this is not a joke." Seeing that Sumu did not leave, but continued to pester him, the faces of many security guards gradually became serious, obviously treating him as a bad element who came to make trouble. Just when Sumu was about to show some special abilities to convince the security guards, several cars stopped, and then a beautiful figure walked out first, followed by several men in black clothes with cold temperament. They saw the two parties confronting each other in front of the building, but they didn't care. Instead, they walked into the building in a hurry. It was obvious that they had more important things to do. Sumu immediately recognized the woman in the lead. She had long golden hair and a black dress. Who else could it be but Pepper Potts? It seems that it will be my turn to save heroes soon. Sumu stretched out two fingers, rubbed his chin, and thought. Then he looked at the security guards who were slowly approaching him, and slowly took off the round frame sunglasses on his tall nose bridge. Many security guards stopped immediately. They looked at the delicate eyes emitting azure blue light in front of them, and the most popular news recently slowly emerged in their minds. White-haired devil. Before they became confused, they saw the corners of the man's mouth in front of them slightly raised, and whispered, "Sorry, everyone, please take a rest for a while." Pepper Potts led many agents to walk quickly into the building. After Agent Callison used the microbomb to destroy the door lock, several people continued to move towards the interior of Area 16. The light inside Area 16 was very dim, filled with a large number of mechanical equipment, multiple iron chains hanging from the ceiling, and a huge rough metal armor placed in a corner. Looking at the steel armor, Callison said to Pepper next to him, "It seems that you are right, he is making armor." Several people continued to go deeper, and Pepper was attracted by the screens full of complex data around her, and then stopped in front of dozens of chains. Just when she wanted to move forward, suddenly, two huge eyes emitting pale light lit up from the darkness. Ah! The shrill scream destroyed the peace of the night. Pepper fled outside, and the huge steel armor several meters high behind her was chasing her madly. Seeing this situation, several agents subconsciously shot at Iron Overlord with guns, but were immediately flattened by the terrifying steel fist. In the blink of an eye, only Callison and Pepper survived among the people who came to capture Obadiah Stane. Pepper passed through a narrow door, and the huge Iron Overlord was stuck by the solid concrete wall, so she escaped. Just as she was passing through the circular arc reactor and trying to escape from Stark Tower, she suddenly saw something out of the corner of her eye. Countless terrifying white electric currents flowed out of the arc reactor, emitting the piercing sound of thousands of birds, and enveloped a handsome white-haired man. Wrapped in such a terrifying electric current, the white-haired man was not hurt at all. Instead, he opened his arms, and his delicate blue eyes were full of joy. More. Seeing the incredible scene in front of her, Pepper subconsciously stopped and even forgot to escape temporarily. Please read and collect it! Chapter 16 Black Lightning Explodes. After dealing with several dedicated security guards, Sumu slowly walked towards the interior of Stark Tower, ready to go and see the birth of the supervillain Ironmonger. At this moment, a huge arc attracted his attention. From the perspective of the six eyes, the terrifying energy jumped in front of him, like a beautiful cake, waiting for him to taste. He immediately threw Ironmonger out of his mind. What Ironmonger? How could it be more important than energy? Through the refined manipulation of the six eyes, a large amount of electrical energy escaped from the giant arc reactor and was then gradually absorbed by Sumu. Energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1. Since the energy absorption was upgraded to level 3, it was the first time to overload and absorb electrical energy crazily. Put all the energy points into the character template, and the fusion degree will jump almost every few minutes. Template fusion degree. 28% template fusion degree. 29% template fusion degree. 30% when the fusion degree reached 30%, many memories immediately emerged in Sumu's mind. It was a high-level manipulation method of cursed power, Black Flash. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, when physical attacks and cursed force impacts hit almost at the same time, and the error is within 0.000001 seconds, space distortion will occur. At that time, the power of the attack will be 2.5 times the normal power. This is a skill that can be grown with the improvement of strength. Due to the difficult conditions of Black Flash, no warlock can use Black Flash 100%. So this amazingly powerful skill can only be performed by luck. However, Sumu is different. He has six eyes and energy absorption, two extraordinary abilities belonging to different worlds. As the skill level increases, his control over energy will be much higher than Gojo Satoru, and it is very likely that he can use Black Flash 100% in the future. At that time, by strengthening the body through energy absorption and cursed force manipulation, Sumu can even fight the Hulk. When Sumu was constantly absorbing energy, he suddenly heard a cry from behind him, and when he looked again, it was indeed Pepper who escaped. But for some reason, when he turned to look at Pepper, Pepper screamed shrilly, his legs were shaking, and he rolled out of the door of Stark building. Sumu stood there, a little confused, slowly restrained the crazy and joyful smile on his face, stopped absorbing electrical energy, and let the rooms around him, which were ravaged by electrical energy, rest for a while. He doubted himself deeply. Do I look scary? Pepper escaped from Stark building and immediately looked back. Seeing that the terrifying white-haired demon did not catch up, she was relieved. She thought that most of the news reports were exaggerated. After seeing the white-haired demon, she knew that the news was true, and the reality was even more perverted than the news. The white-haired demon is too scary. Thinking of the crazy smile just now and the white-haired figure in the terrifying electric current, Pepper shuddered again. Pepper. At this moment, Tony's voice came to Pepper's ears. When Tony wanted to say something else, she immediately said, Tony, the white-haired demon. The white-haired demon is here too. Tony Stark was full of doubts. Wasn't it Obadiah? Why did he suddenly become a white-haired demon? But there was no time for him to think about it, because Pepper screamed. Obviously she was in danger. Tony Stark increased his driving force again, and his speed increased again. Finally, in a few seconds, he saw Ironmonger who was aiming at Pepper with a weapon. Without any hesitation, he withstood the rain of gunfire and directly knocked Ironmonger away, breaking through the walls until he fell into a road. The two continued to fight on the road, and Tony Stark was completely at a disadvantage. Even if he led Ironmonger to high altitude and used the high altitude icing phenomenon to make him fall, he could not kill Ironmonger. In the end, when Tony Stark was about to let Pepper open all the circuits and intend to detonate the arc reactor, he heard crisp footsteps from the side. Such a powerful energy source, it would be a pity if it was destroyed. The sudden voice made Tony Stark and Ironmonger look in the direction of the sound at the same time. Before the person spoke, their reconnaissance system did not notice anything. They first saw a touch of white hair, followed by bright blue eyes that shone brightly in the night sky, and a handsome face with a single smile. Then, they heard the mysterious white-haired man say to Tony Stark, I will kill Obadiah for you, how about you give me an arc reactor? Tony Stark immediately ordered Jarvis, check his information. Jarvis immediately responded, he should be Sumu, the level 5 mutant who appeared in Manhattan a few days ago and fought with another mutant. At the same time, Jarvis called up Sumu's detailed information and photos of various abilities on the projection in front of Tony Stark. Looking at the terrifying azure black hole and the strange red and black starting point, Tony Stark fell into confusion. When he was transforming Mark II, did the outside world change so much? After reading the information, Tony Stark did not hesitate and said to Sumu directly, deal. Obadiah witnessed a transaction between Sumu and Tony Stark throughout the whole process. Although he did not believe that a human could have such amazing power, he did not want to cause any more trouble, so he said to Sumu, white-haired demon, help me kill Tony, I will give you $100 million as a reward and give you 3 arc reactors. He looked at Sumu confidently, waiting for the white-haired demon in front of him to surrender to the money. But something he did not expect happened. The white-haired demon showed a mocking smile on his face and grinned, you? Can you make an arc reactor? Obadiah immediately stopped talking. He really could not make an arc reactor. He just wanted to deceive the mutant in front of him. He would kill him after the matter was over, and he would not even give the $100 million. Seeing that his plan was exposed, Obadiah sighed, and then said indifferently, young man, it is better not to be too smart. Suddenly, Obadiah immediately controlled Iron Overlord and used all his energy to attack Sumu quickly. He planned to kill the mutant who suddenly appeared directly. As for the information revealed in the video, how could humans have such powerful power? Dense ammunition and the huge steel fist came almost at the same time. Just when Tony Stark and Obadiah thought that Sumu was dead, they saw a scene that shocked them. Both the dense ammunition and the huge fist of Ironmonger stopped in front of Sumu and could not move forward an inch. Then, they saw that the mysterious mutant named Sumu waved his seemingly slender arm at the Ironmonger who was much bigger than him. Boom! The terrifying black lightning broke out at the junction of the fist and the Ironmonger. The huge Ironmonger was blown away by his mortal body, breaking through layers of walls, smashing large metal ornaments, and finally flew to the distant highway again and fell into the wall on the side of the road. Please read it again! Exclamation mark. Dear viewers who see this, don't forget to invest. Chapter 17, The White Devil is about to be defeated? Seeing this scene, Tony Stark swallowed his saliva subconsciously. The scene in the report was not AI synthesis, nor was it a fictional report. The information recorded on it was actually true. And compared with the facts, it was weakened. At least the content of the report did not say that the power of the White Devil would be so amazing that it could actually knock Ironmonger away with one punch. As the designer of the steel armor, Tony could naturally judge the weight of Ironmonger from its size. Being able to knock Ironmonger away with one punch, even Mark II could not do it. This is not a power that humans can have. Looking at the seemingly slender arms of the White Devil, Tony Stark felt his ignorance for the first time. After knocking Ironmonger away with one punch, Sumu moved his palms and did not expect to successfully use the Black Flash in the first attack. This also proved his guess that he had the ability of energy absorption more than Gojo Satoru, and his control over energy was stronger. In the future, it is very likely that he can release the Black Flash 100%. This also means that his attack will always be 2.5 times the original power. This is undoubtedly a very terrifying improvement. Ignoring Tony Stark, who was in a daze, Sumu walked slowly towards the road, passed through the gap in the wall, walked along the road opened by Ironmonger's body, and slowly came to the front of the road. As he slowly approached, Ironmonger obviously also noticed his approach, and fired dense ammunition and missiles at him, but they were all blocked by the unlimited spell and could not move forward. When he came to the side of the road, passers-by had reacted and stopped approaching. This section of the road was now empty, with only Sumu walking slowly and Ironmonger shooting continuously. Passers-by who were not afraid of death hid in the distance and watched the battle curiously, and some even took out their mobile phones to take pictures. When seeing Sumu slowly appear, someone immediately recognized his identity. White Devil, why is he here? Is he fighting with a steel giant? The steel monster just now was knocked away by him. How did he do it? Passers-by immediately became noisy and raised a series of questions. Coincidentally, in a Chevrolet in the distance, a middle-aged man's face was about to overflow with excitement. He immediately took out professional camera equipment and filmed in the direction of Sumu. Yes, this man is the future Venom, Eddie Brock. At this moment, he was extremely excited, and kept praising the goddess of luck in his heart, which unexpectedly allowed him to encounter the White Devil's attack again. The previous news has made him a hot existence in the global daily. Now if he can film the White Devil's battle scene again, then he is very likely to be promoted and get a raise, and reach the peak of his life. In his camera, the White Devil slowly walked in front of the Iron Giant, and the show finally began. Obadiah looked at the screen in front of him in shock, and the system kept warning, alarm, alarm, the body damage is 36%. The body damage is 36%. Just that punch just now almost completely destroyed the chest armor of the Iron Overlord. How is this possible? Exclamation mark. The metal used to assemble the Iron Overlord is a 10 cm thick titanium alloy. Such a thick titanium alloy can even withstand high-yield missiles without being penetrated. But now it was almost destroyed by a human punch. Is he really a human? Obadiah regretted it now. The report of the Global Times was actually true. If he had known this, he would never have clashed with the White Devil, even if he promised $1 billion or $2 billion. But it was too late. At this time, he could only try his best to kill the White Devil. The White Devil's weird defensive ability is absolutely impossible to hold. Keeping a distance and constantly using ammunition consumption can definitely kill him. When Obadiah was about to put his thoughts into action, he suddenly found that the White Devil in front of him disappeared without a trace. When the system reminded him again, he saw the White Devil appear in front of him, staring at him coldly with indifferent eyes, clenching his right hand, and dissipating azure unknown energy. It was the attack that just knocked him away. He tried his best to dodge, but the distance was too close, and the Iron Overlord was too heavy, so he couldn't dodge the next attack of the White Devil at all. If hit by this attack, the Ironmonger's chest armor will be shattered immediately, and he in the cockpit will never survive. No. 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 He looked at the approaching fist in despair, as if he saw his own death. Under his bloodshot eyes, the fist bursting with azure energy still made contact with the Ironmonger, and then the Ironmonger was knocked away again. However, unlike the last time, There was no black lightning this time, and the ironmonger was only knocked away for a few meters before stopping. Obadiah immediately manipulated the ironmonger to stand up and looked at the damage to the body. Alarm, alarm, the damage to the body is 38%. The damage to the body is 38%. The punch just now only caused an additional 2% damage to the body. Obadiah realized something and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, you can't just release that terrifying black lightning just now, right? Maybe the initial attack has already consumed your physical strength to a great extent, and you can't use it a second time at this time. Knowing that the white demon was not as strong as he imagined, Obadiah's fear disappeared in an instant, and he continued to shoot at Sumu frantically. Come on, let me see how long you can hold out in this hail of bullets. Tony Stark also walked over from the gap on the side of the road, and he also took in the scene just now. Not good, the black lightning attack can't be released continuously. In this way, as long as Obadiah keeps consuming the white demon, he may really win. Tony immediately had a bad premonition. At this time, the energy of the arc reactor in his chest was only 2%, which could not support Mark II to continue fighting. If Obadiah won, he would have no reaction power at all and could only die in despair. Damn it. Passers-by in the distance also saw the scene in front of them. They saw that the White Devil only knocked the Iron Giant away with one punch, and the Iron Giant seemed to be unharmed. He immediately stood up and shot wildly at the White Devil. They immediately made a guess. The White Devil's strength can still fight against humans, but it is no match for the power of technology. That's right, the Iron Giant should be the work of the military. The military has attacked the White Devil, and he will be killed by the Iron Giant soon. In the crowd, a very small number of mutants who hid their identities saw the scene and couldn't help showing despair. Are mutants really no match for the government? Can mutants only suffer oppression and cannot stand up? Everyone thought that the White Devil was about to lose, but then, something unexpected happened. Please read and collect it! Exclamation mark. Chapter 18 Two Arc Reactors. Sumu, who was being watched by everyone, did not pay attention to other people's thoughts. He shook his palm, moved his fingers, and said with some regret, sure enough, the skill level is too low, and the black flash cannot be released 100%, and the probability of successfully releasing the black flash is extremely low. However, it was expected, and Sumu did not care. He moved his eyes away from his palm and placed them on the ironmonger in front of him, picked his ears, and said casually, "It's been so long, it's time to end the battle, otherwise what if Tony Stark is not satisfied with my service?" Then Sumu stretched out his hand forward, with a look of joy and cruelty on his face. The technique is forward to Kang, maximum power. Obadiah immediately noticed something wrong when Sumu stretched out his hand, and fired all the weapons in his body in an instant. The explosions produced by these weapons can even destroy an entire street, but they were absorbed by a deep blue black hole and did not produce any reaction. The missiles that Obadiah had high hopes for were actually resolved so easily. No, this is impossible. Under Obadiah's incredulous gaze, Sumu grinned and pushed the azure black hole in front of him towards him. After the missile lost its effect, Obadiah immediately fled backwards, with all the jet devices on his body running at full power, and immediately came to 10 meters away. Just when he breathed a sigh of relief, he suddenly found that Iron Overlord had stopped, and even though he adjusted the power of the propulsion device to the highest, it was still slowly flying behind him. And behind him was the terrifying azure black hole that seemed to swallow everything. No. Obadiah forced the power of the jet device to overclock, making it exceed the limit, but even if the propulsion device has exceeded the limit and even began to turn red and melt, it still cannot stop him from moving towards the azure black hole, and the speed of movement is even faster and faster. Finally, under the complicated eyes of Tony Stark, under the solemn gaze of Agent Coulson who also rushed over, and under the onlookers of all other civilians, the Iron Overlord, who was still invincible in the last moment, was swallowed by the terrifying azure black hole in the next moment. The 10-centimeter thick titanium alloy was completely unable to resist the terrifying gravity. First, the feet, then the chest and abdomen, and finally the head, twisted in turn, sank into the azure black hole, and disappeared. And the creator of everything, the person who made them originally not optimistic, just yawned and walked out of the dust raised by the explosion. The white sweater he was wearing was not even stained with dust, but his hairstyle looked a little messy. The white-haired devil once again told the world with a terrifying sense of oppression and absolute dominance that he was the strongest. After dealing with Ironmonger, Sumu slowly walked towards Tony Stark and clenched his palms behind him. A strange luminous body emitting white light was attracted by gravity and flew into his hands. It was the energy source of Ironmonger, the arc reactor. When holding the reactor, Sumu immediately felt a huge energy contained in it. The 6 fine manipulation and energy absorption were running at full capacity. After replenishing the energy in the body to the upper limit of the energy storage, the remaining energy was absorbed by the system and then put into the Gojo Satoru template. Even if the template fusion degree is increased to 30%, the difficulty of further improvement will also increase. The fusion degree is still increasing in an orderly manner, not much slower than before. According to the previous rules, when the fusion degree reaches 40%, he will gain a new skill. He is very much looking forward to it. What is the new skill? Will it be the reversal of the technique He? Its minimum power is twice the maximum power of the forward rotation of the technique King. When Sumu came to Tony Stark, the system sent a prompt at the same time, template fusion degree. 31% at this time. Tony Stark was in a mess. His steel helmet had long disappeared, and even one of his steel gauntlets had disappeared. The arc reactor kept flashing on his chest, and it was obvious that the energy was on the verge of exhaustion. Seeing Sumu approaching, Phil Coulson on the side subconsciously took a step back. This was the subconscious reaction of humans facing powerful predators. What's more, Sumu was more terrifying than a powerful predator. But Tony Stark showed no signs of fear. He came to Sumu's side and looked at him curiously, his eyes full of curiosity. How did you do it just now? Some mysterious future technology? Is that strange defense some kind of space technology? Coulson on the side also showed a curious look, hoping to get more information about the white-haired demon. Hearing Tony Stark's question, Sumu smiled and explained, "This is my ability." Hearing Sumu's answer, Tony Stark murmured to himself, "Mutants? This is incredible." Sumu did not comment. Except for energy absorption, the other abilities were given by the panel and had nothing to do with mutants. However, Sumu did not deny that there are many abilities against mutants in the Marvel world. If someone wants to use this ability to deal with him in the future, then he will definitely give that person a surprise. Tony Stark suddenly felt a pain in his chest, and when he looked at his chest, he saw that the power of the arc reactor on his chest had been completely exhausted. He immediately looked at the arc reactor in Sumu's hand and said, "Can you give me that arc reactor back? I need it to help me absorb the scattered shrapnel in my chest." Sumu naturally didn't want the hero he loved in his previous life to die like this, so he threw the arc reactor in his hand to Tony Stark. "You owe me 2 arc reactors now." "What? This arc reactor was originally mine. But it belongs to me now." "This, okay." Thinking that the man in front of him had saved him, giving him one more arc reactor was nothing. It was definitely not that the white-haired demon was too strong. That's right, it was definitely not. Seeing this, Agent Coulson on the side silently wrote down the fact that the white-haired demon needed an arc reactor, which might be related to his ability. Then he took out his ID and said to Sumu, "Hello, sir. I am Agent Coulson of the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. I have some questions to discuss with you." Looking at the sparse hair of Agent Coulson in front of him, Coulson felt deeply offended and then retracted his gaze. "Well, it seems that your usual work is very tiring." "Oh, yes," Coulson answered subconsciously, and then immediately realized his main purpose, so he continued, "I wonder if you can join us and become an Avenger." Facing Coulson's invitation, Sumu was not surprised. At this time, Nick Fury was preparing the Avengers Alliance plan. Seeing his strength, it was normal to want to invite him. Sumu was about to refuse, and then thought of the space gem placed at the shield base and the mind gem that would be delivered to the account soon, and immediately smiled and said, "Of course, I am willing to." Looking at the frivolous smile of the white-haired man in front of him, Coulson didn't know why, and had a sense of foreboding. Please read and collect! Exclamation mark. Chapter 19 Template Fusion Degree 39%. Sure enough, he heard Sumu continue, "But my relationship with you is not a superior-subordinate relationship, but a cooperative relationship. You need to pay me a certain amount of compensation, and I will help you carry out the task." Sumu reread the letter of compensation, and made up his mind that when the energy absorption was increased to enough to carry the energy of the Infinity Stone, he would go to S.H.I.E.L.D. to get the Space Stone. After all, this is a reward, isn't it? Of course, it would be even better if Loki happened to come to deliver the takeout at that time. As for whether S.H.I.E.L.D. would be unhappy, Sumu had no consideration in this regard, and believed that they would be happy to give him the reward. They are not stupid. Coulson was silent for a moment after hearing Sumu's words, and then reached out to the communicator beside his ear and said, "This is not something I can decide. I need to ask my superiors." Sumu nodded. Coulson immediately contacted Nick Fury, and after saying something, he said to Sumu, "If you are willing to join us completely, we can help you lift the military's wanted order." Sumu was stunned and immediately understood that this was a deal. He smiled brightly, then approached Coulson and said slowly, "Agent Coulson, or Director Nick Fury, do you think I care about the so-called wanted order?" Coulson continued to communicate with Nick Fury, then took off the communicator beside his ear and turned up the volume to the highest level. Then a deep voice came from the communicator, "Mr. Sumu, I admit that your ability is very strong, even stronger than Magneto and Professor X, but there are too many mutants under Colonel Stryker, and there are many who can erase the abilities of mutants. I guess even if you encounter this situation, you can't do anything. Join us, we will help you negotiate with Colonel Stryker and erase your wanted order, how about it?" Nick Fury sat in the office with a confident look on his face. He told Colonel Stryker's secret weapon against mutants, and Sumu would definitely not refuse. After all, no matter how powerful he is still a mutant, and a mutant without mutant abilities is just an ordinary person, who can be killed by any bullet. However, after he waited for a moment, he suddenly heard a laugh from the communicator, and the sound was getting louder and louder until it became an undisguised ironic mockery. "Ha Nico Fury, do you really think I care about this? Just now, we are just equal partners. If you don't want to, forget it. After all, even if you take it by force, you can still get the Infinity Stones. It's just more convenient to cooperate with S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was silent. The development of things exceeded his expectations. He didn't expect Sumu to really not mind the means that can erase mutant abilities. Could it be that he has a way to deal with this method? No, it's impossible. He doesn't even know the specific situation of this method. How can he have a way to deal with it? Nick Fury immediately breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to rescue Sumu when he was about to be captured by Colonel Stryker, and then let him join S.H.I.E.L.D. completely. Presumably at that time, he will think it through. So he said directly, "Okay, I agree. Now you and us are in a cooperative relationship. If you regret it later, we still welcome you to join, but the conditions may change at that time." Sumu naturally understood what Nick Fury meant, and then grinned and said, "Don't worry, Director Nick, there will never be that day. What effect will the ability of mutants have on him? Moreover, how can it be possible to withdraw the wanted order by just negotiating with Stryker? He wants to kill Stryker." After that, Agent Coulson said goodbye to Sumu and Stark. His mission had been completed, and he even won over the level 5 mutant white-haired devil. At this time, there was no reason to stay here. After Coulson left, Tony reunited with Pepper Potts, and led Sumu to the top floor of Stark Tower, picking up 2 brand new arc reactors from the table and giving them to Sumu. "This is your reward, white-haired boy." Sumu looked at Stark. He didn't expect that Stark had given him a nickname just after they met. But he didn't mind, instead he found it interesting. Before he traveled through time, Stark had already died. Although he planned to return, would Stark still be the Iron Man after his return? This also became his regret. Seeing the living Iron Man at this time, he felt like his fantasy had come true. Sumu took a satchel from the table at random, put an arc reactor in it, and then held another arc reactor in one hand to absorb energy at full power. Tony Stark saw Sumu pick up the satchel, obviously wanting to take it for himself, and couldn't help but complain, "You're so rude." Sumu responded, "After all, I saved your life, didn't I? Mr. Shit. Shit? What the hell is this?" Tony Stark asked immediately, but as Sumu waved his fingers, he felt that the whole person was pulled back by a huge attraction, and then he found himself in Pepper's arms. Sumu, who was already sitting on the office chair in the distance, had no sense of being a guest. He had already laid down and said to Tony Stark, "I just escaped from death. What am I doing here if I don't kiss your girlfriend?" Tony Stark was speechless. He looked at Pepper, who was looking at him tenderly at this time. In this crisis, they finally understood each other's feelings. The scene in front of him made Su-mu quite dissatisfied. He didn't want to eat dog food, so he directly used Kang to drive the two away and stayed alone on the top floor to absorb energy. Energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1. As the template fusion degree continued to increase, the difficulty of continuing to increase the fusion degree also increased. When it increased to 35%, the energy points required to increase 1% continued to increase, but with a continuous supply of energy from the arc reactor, after more than 10 hours, the template fusion degree finally reached 39%. At this time, Su-mu suddenly took off the black eye mask in front of him and looked into the distance. After a moment, he grinned, took off the eye mask, and then threw it aside, and said to Jarvis, "Jarvis, tell Tony that I will be away for a while. When I come back, I will have something important to tell him. I think he has also noticed that there is something wrong with his body." After saying that, he did not wait for Jarvis to reply, and came to the French window. With a slight force of 5 fingers, the extremely solid glass immediately shattered. Su-mu opened his arms, leaned forward, and naturally fell downward. When he was close to the ground, he used Kang to absorb himself to the wall, and with a slight force, he stepped on the wall to create many cracks, and then rushed in the direction of a fire. There happened to be a hard enough target there, which was very suitable for experimenting with the new skills that will be acquired next. Please read and collect it! Exclamation mark. Chapter 28 Tragic Drama. In the laboratory of the seaside villa, Tony Stark saw through the camera that Su-mu easily shattered the special bulletproof glass and then jumped down, and couldn't help but curse in a low voice, "What a monster, you know, that is a special glass that could withstand RPG rocket launchers." He only used 5 fingers to easily shatter it, and he didn't even use other abilities. But what is he doing outside at this time? Jarvis, explore the direction he left and see if there is anything worth noting. Jarvis immediately hacked into a large number of surveillance cameras, and after a while, he projected part of the picture in front of Tony Stark. Seeing the picture in front of him, Tony Stark subconsciously cursed, "What kind of monster is this? Is Su-mu going to find these monsters? Jarvis, assemble Mark IV, I can't miss this kind of thing." "But sir, Mark IV has not yet undergone the final debugging." Jarvis was interrupted by Tony Stark before he finished speaking. "No need for debugging, there will be no problems with my design." New York, Northern Manhattan, Harlem. A terrifying green-skinned monster appeared at some point, rampaging through Harlem, killing all creatures in sight. This bustling urban area has now become a ruin. The intensive shooting and screaming have turned this urban area into hell on earth, filled with the wailing and despair. The fully armed elite troops roamed in Harlem, shooting wildly at the terrifying monster, but neither guns nor missiles could hurt the monster in the slightest. The elite troops, like civilians, had no power to resist the green-skinned monster. On a tall building nearby, Su-mu sat on the edge, his legs hanging naturally, his chin resting on his hands, watching the tragic drama in front of him with a smile on his face. He was quietly waiting for the protagonist to appear. Boom! The sound of breaking through the air came from far away, and Su-mu did not look back. The 6 eyes had already captured the figure of Tony Stark. Tony Stark looked at the hellish scene in front of him. His expression under the helmet was full of seriousness. "What is this?" Su-mu replied indifferently, "Well, a weak mortal suddenly gets the power he has always dreamed of, and then gets lost, and a drama of crazy revenge." "Then what are you doing here?" Tony Stark knew that the young man in front of him had the power to stop all this, but he was unmoved, just like an audience, observing everything in front of him indifferently. Hearing that there was already some anger in Tony Stark's tone, Su-mu was still unmoved, just changed to a more comfortable posture, waiting for the protagonist to appear. "But you, why are you here instead of preparing for tomorrow's press conference?" Tony Stark did not answer, but asked in a deep voice, "Are you staying here, doing nothing, just watching that monster destroy and kill people everywhere? Otherwise? Even if I don't stop it, it's not wrong, right?" Tony Stark was silent. Su-mu was right. He had no obligation to save others. So he stopped talking, drove the Mark IV towards the abomination, and used the energy cannon in his palm to shoot at him crazily, but it had no effect at all. "Look here, green fat man, I have a gift for you. Jarvis, charge 100%. A shining white light lit up in the center of the iron armor, and then a thick energy beam hit the abomination. Tony Stark breathed a sigh of relief. This should be able to deal with him. Suddenly, a huge building stone hit Tony Stark, and he was directly smashed away, and the chest of the iron armor was immediately severely deformed. However, the abomination, who was hit by the thick energy beam, did not suffer any damage. He glanced at the direction where Tony Stark was smashed and flew out, spitting to one side, and continued to shout loudly, "Hulk, get out and face me." On the top of the tall building, Sumu attracted Tony, who was flying far away, to prevent him from being hurt again, and then teased, "Tony, why are you flying back again?" Tony Stark did not respond. He took off his helmet with difficulty and took a deep breath. Just now, he almost thought he saw the god of death. Only then did he understand why Sumu did not go to stop him. With such a terrifying power and such a terrifying defense, even the white-haired demon would be helpless. At this moment, there was a heavy sound of a heavy object falling to the ground in the distance, and then Tony Stark saw Sumu stand up, stretched his waist and said, "The protagonist is here, so the villain, will also appear." After that, Sumu immediately jumped off the building and disappeared from Tony's sight. Tony was puzzled. Why did Sumu say that he was the villain? Isn't the villain the green monster? Banner jumped from the plane and smashed a deep pit in the ground. Then a huge green hand stretched out. The green giant with the same green skin but a higher appearance came out. Hulk is online. Hulk tore a car in half and rushed towards the abomination as a weapon. The two fought fiercely and almost destroyed the entire Harlem. But because Banner had injected inhibitors before, Hulk could not exert his full strength and gradually fell into disadvantage. Just when the abomination was pressing the Hulk under him and beating him, he suddenly heard a gloating voice from the side. "No, abomination, you should have hit the Hulk's eyes directly with that punch just now. Hulk, you have to attack the vitals of the abomination, the vitals, understand?" The two subconsciously stopped, and then saw a white-haired young man sitting on the only intact street lamp on the side, eating potato chips that he had brought from nowhere in his hand, while pointing fingers at them. Seeing the two men in front of him stop fighting, Sumu said impatiently, "What are you doing? Keep fighting. You haven't finished eating the potato chips yet." Abomination looked at the white-haired man in front of him and immediately recognized that this was the white-haired demon that appeared some time ago, a level 5 mutant. However, he had just gained huge power at this time, and he didn't take the so-called white-haired demon seriously at all. No matter how strong he is he stronger than him? It is estimated that he can be defeated at will, just like the Iron Man just now. Abomination picked up a huge stone and threw it hard at the white-haired demon on the street lamp. The huge force acted on the stone, and the terrifying speed formed a sonic boom, which directly hit the white-haired demon. He turned his head directly, without looking at the result of the attack, and wanted to hit Hulk again. But at this moment, he suddenly heard a sigh from behind him. "Hey, bad boy, how can you hit the referee when you are fine? You said so, Abomination." Then, Abomination felt a terrifying force coming from his back, and black and red lightning filled all the space around him. He was blown away uncontrollably, breaking through layers of solid walls, and finally on the concrete floor. After finally stopping, he immediately felt a warm liquid flowing down his back. When he wiped it back, the skin behind him, which was harder than titanium alloy, was broken. A lot of green blood kept flowing down from a fist mark. This was the first time he was injured since he gained power. In the distance, through the passage created by him, a pair of eyes emitting azure light looked at him, looking down at him as if looking at an ant. At the same time, Sumu heard the system's prompt in the distance: energy point +1, template fusion degree. 40%, you have unlocked a new skill, spell reversal. The time is just right. The familiar smile appeared on Sumu's lips again. "Please read and collect it!" Exclamation mark. Chapter 21. 7 consecutive black flashes. Reversal of the RT, 1/100, generates repulsive force with he as the center, with a minimum power twice that of Kang, and the maximum output is positive infinity, similar to a small supernova. A large amount of information about the reversal of the RT poured out of his mind, and Sumu instantly mastered the use of the reversal of the RT. At this time, he could perfectly perform the reversal of the RT without generating a lot of unnecessary consumption like last time. And there was no longer a risk of being killed by his own ability. Thinking of this, Sumu's smile on his face became even more joyful. He looked at the abomination that stood up from the spot and rushed towards him, and did not use the reversal of the RD immediately. After all, in addition to experimenting with the reversal of the RD, his purpose of coming here was to practice Black Flash and increase the success rate of Black Flash. Sumu directly released the unlimited art, used energy absorption and spell power manipulation to strengthen his body, and then faced the abomination that rushed towards him, and exerted all his muscles together. Boom! The familiar black lightning burst out again, and the abomination that rushed towards Sumu flew backwards at a faster speed. Sumu looked at his right hand. Even though he had energy absorption and spell power manipulation to strengthen his body, his physical fitness was still lower than that of abomination. If he hadn't used Black Flash this time, he would have been the one to be knocked away. Reversal skill experience +1, the reversal skill was activated. The slightly broken bones and abrasions on his right hand recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. It seemed that the recovery speed was faster than that of abomination. On the top floor of the high-rise building, Tony Stark looked at the scene in front of him. Looking at the white-haired demon that completely crushed the green-skinned monster, he swallowed his saliva again. Fuck. Who is the monster? However, his face suddenly changed and he shouted to Sumu, "Be careful." At the same time, Sumu heard a sharp sound of breaking through the air, and then felt that he was shrouded by a huge shadow. A huge fist smashed towards Sumu's head. Sumu used his 6 eyes to notice Hulk's move just as he was about to attack. However, he did not panic or even pay attention to it. Instead, he rubbed his chin with his fingers and thought quietly, "After using Black Flash, you will enter a special state that allows the user to exert 120% of his strength." Is this the zone state? Sumu had noticed something after using Black Flash last time. This time, using Black Flash twice in a row had a more profound effect. All the cells in his body were pulsating, and his mind was more focused than ever before. He could detect details that he could never detect before. Boom! Hulk's fist broke through the sound barrier, forming a visible sonic boom, and hit Sumu's head. However, even with such a terrifying punch, it could no longer move forward after approaching Sumu's 10-centimeter distance. Then Hulk swung his fist with a residual image and continued to attack Sumu, but it still did not work. Even if it looked like Hulk's power completely crushed Sumu, for some reason, all the people watching the fight felt that Hulk was just a child, and was now acting like a spoiled child to Sumu, who was an adult. No matter how much he cried, he was still vulnerable to Sumu, who was an adult. If it was said that Hulk's attack had no effect, that was not the case. The dust splash by the sonic boom attracted Sumu's attention. He came back to his senses from his thoughts and looked at the Hulk who was constantly attacking him behind him. He showed extreme joy on his face and took a step forward. Hulk was immediately bounced away and kept retreating. The continuous attack was also interrupted. As soon as Hulk stabilized his body, azure blue eyes appeared in front of him and looked at him. Then a palm that was very small for him was printed on his forehead, and he was pressed deeply into the concrete floor with terrifying black lightning. After temporarily suppressing Hulk, Sumu's smile became even bigger. Then he quickly kicked backwards. The terrifying black lightning broke out again. The body of the abomination crushed a tank and smashed a wall before finally stopping. Without looking back, ignoring the abomination who was kicked away again, Sumu continued to hit the Hulk who wanted to get up. Boom! 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 The black lightning contained enormous power. Each attack could make the ground sink several meters. After 3 punches, a deep pit with a diameter of tens of meters had been formed around it. After 3 consecutive black flashes, Hulk was bleeding and his consciousness was blurred. If Sumu punched him again, he could suppress him directly and release Banner. But when the 4th punch fell, the terrifying black lightning had not appeared yet. This time it was an ordinary punch. Hulk originally used his arms to block Sumu's crazy attack. He felt a little wronged at this time. In the previous power collision, he always won with absolute advantage. Even when facing the big guy who was also green just now, he would not be without any resistance. But who is the person who appeared at this time? He looks very weak. Why does he have such amazing power? Exclamation mark. Originally, the poor baby Hulk was ready to go back and let Banner face the terrifying white-haired demon in front of him, but suddenly found that the fist that was extremely terrifying just now fell on him, but did not cause any harm. Hulk reacted immediately, jumped out of the deep pit, and roared at the white-haired demon in front of him again. According to his intuition, The white-haired demon in front of him could no longer use the terrifying black lightning just now. It was Hulk's turn. Hulk was full of confidence. Behind Sumu, Abomination also arrived. He saw the whole scene. The black attack of the white-haired demon just now could not be used continuously. In the news just released by the Global Times, the white-haired demon could only use black lightning once at that time. This time, it was beyond his expectation that he could use it 7 times in a row. However, even for the white-haired demon, using black lightning 7 times in a row should be close to exhaustion. As long as he and Hulk continued to attack the white-haired demon together, they would definitely be able to penetrate the damn space defense and kill the white-haired demon. The next moment, Abomination and Hulk punched Sumu at the same time. When facing the white-haired demon, the two enemies were shocked by the unparalleled sense of oppression and even joined forces for a short time. Tony Stark, who saw this scene, immediately ordered Jarvis to speed up and transfer all the steel armors over, ready to rescue Sumu at any time. Tony Stark believed that even if Sumu was extremely powerful, he was still no match for the joint attack of 2 monsters. In the distance, Nick Fury, who was watching the battle using a satellite, also had a serious look on his face. He also did not think highly of Sumu. The terrifying black lightning just now represented an astonishing consumption. Using it 7 times in a row would definitely consume a lot of Sumu's energy. Hulk and Abomination both had extremely strong recovery abilities and almost endless physical strength. The damage Sumu had caused to them before was also healing quickly. In this way, as long as they continued to attack Sumu and consume his physical strength, they would eventually be able to break Sumu's defense. Damn, how can Sumu be saved? Nick Fury did not want to lose an important member of the future Avengers. But he despaired and found that he had no means to save Sumu in this situation. Could it be that the white-haired devil was really going to perish? Exclamation mark. Please read and collect. Exclamation mark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 The Black and Red Singularity blooms again. But the one who was most worried about the death of the white-haired demon was not Tony Stark or Nick Fury, but Eddie Brock, who was hiding in another tall building and using a camera to shoot downwards. He saw the white-haired demon in crisis. If his strength did not allow it, he would even want to jump down and save the white-haired demon. Damn it, damn it. How could the white-haired demon fall like this? All of Eddie Brock's current achievements are based on the white-haired demon. If the white-haired demon falls from the altar and falls like this, then his reports will also lose their corresponding value, and promotion and salary increase may no longer exist, and even his current status will be lost. No, white-haired demon, come on, you are the strongest. So the future Venom, Mr. Eddie Brock, became the #1 fan of the white-haired demon. In the center of the battlefield, Hulk and Abomination punched Sumu at the same time. The aftermath of the continuous punching alone broke the cement floor of a large area around. But in the center of the battle, Sumu, who was worried by everyone, did not feel the slightest bit of tension. He rubbed his chin with his fingers again and looked up at the sky. 7 consecutive black flashes should also break the record of consecutive black flashes in the Jujutsu Kaisen world. Then he stretched his waist and looked to both sides. Looking at the 2 hideous greenskins, he smiled brightly. It's time to end. Hearing Sumu's words, the hatred laughed loudly. Yes, it's time to end. When I break your tortoise shell, I will definitely break all your bones one by one. Really? Sumu smiled kindly at the hatred. That's good. Then the hatred saw the white-haired demon in front of him, stretched out his index finger and stretched it towards him. He immediately had a bad premonition, and the content of the first report slowly emerged in his mind. When he thought of the terrifying black and red singularity attack, the hatred immediately wanted to escape and avoid this attack. Judging from the previous reports, this black and red singularity needs to be charged and stabilized for a period of time before it can be successfully released. In this way, with his speed, he can definitely avoid the terrifying singularity attack. However, under his extremely horrified gaze, the terrifying black-red singularity formed in the blink of an eye, quietly staying at the fingertips of the white-haired demon ready to go. Why is it so fast? He asked in great grief and indignation. The mantra in the body was transformed into positive mantra after the reversal of the spell, and then circulated regularly in the body, and finally gathered at the fingertips to form a black-red singularity. After the template fusion degree reached 40% and the spell reversal he was obtained, the black-red singularity that was previously extremely difficult to use was now easy to use. The smile on Sumyu's face gradually became cold, and then he said lightly, "Spell reversal he." The black-red singularity exploded and infinitely repelled the outside world. At this time, the spell reversal he had no extra energy consumption, and all of it was integrated into the repulsive force that could be infinitely improved. Boom. The abomination tried his best to dodge, but still could not escape the lock of the 6 eyes. The terrifying black-red singularity fell on his chest. Facing the black-red singularity comparable to a small supernova, he had no power to resist and flew straight back. Wherever the abomination passed, it was like a hurricane passing through, destroying all the intercepting objects with a devastating force, turning everything into dust. In the distance, a Mark armor just flew over and was in the middle of the abomination's flight. When the two collided, the armor made of titanium alloy immediately fell apart and split apart in a blink of an eye. Until finally, it fell on a wall again. The abomination's extremely hard body could no longer support it, and was pierced through the chest by the terrifying black and red singularity, and green blood was madly spilled. The black and red singularity that broke through the abomination's hard body still carried amazing power, constantly destroying everything in front of it, until it left a huge gully several kilometers long, leaving a deep scar for the prosperous New York. Hulk looked at everything in front of him dully, looking at the powerful enemy who fell to the ground several kilometers away, groaning constantly, and was almost dying. The opponent who just suppressed him was defeated like this? Exclamation mark. Then Hulk saw the terrifying white-haired demon, turned around and smiled at him, and stretched out a slender, seemingly harmless index finger towards him, just like he had just stretched it out to Abomination. No. Hulk tasted the fear of being dominated for the first time. He roared in despair, and then his body immediately shrank, the green color of his skin gradually faded, and finally turned into a middle-aged man in a coma. Sumyu looked at this scene and snorted, boring. Then he took out a high-tech mobile phone that Tony helped him buy, walked towards the abomination in the distance, and called Nick Fury. "Nico Fury, do you want to collect mutant monsters? Well, they are quite strong, and should be worth studying." Through satellite monitoring, Nick Fury saw the entire battle. He saw that the abomination, who was unscathed in the face of gunfire and artillery rain, and the fully armed modern troops, was defeated by the white-haired demon with one blow, and was almost dying. Seeing the Hulk who made the military helpless, he was scared back by the white-haired demon's brilliant smile. Seeing the white-haired demon who was nonchalant about what he had just done. Is this a level 5 mutant? Or is it just a white-haired demon? He subconsciously took over the communication, and then heard Sumyu's words. After Sumyu repeated it several times until he was slightly impatient, he came back to his senses from the shock and immediately said, "Take it. Take it. How many do you want?" $100 million each, I think they are worth that much? Deal. On the top of the high building, Tony Stark stared blankly at the Mark armor that was destroyed by the abomination, stunned. As the support of Iron Man, he invested so much effort in the Mark armor, but it was destroyed so easily? Is the gap between him and Sumyu really that big? He looked towards the center of the battle, and saw that in the middle of the huge gully several kilometers long, the young man was dragging the body of the monster that made him helpless, walking leisurely, and in the direction he was walking, another equally terrifying huge monster had degenerated into the appearance of a middle-aged human man and fell into deep sleep. And the white-haired young man seemed to notice his gaze, looked at him through the distance, and smiled brightly. On the top of another high-rise building, about 2,000 meters away from Sumyu, Eddie Brock used the newly purchased camera to completely capture the scene that just happened. Thinking of the white-haired demon who just defeated the two terrifying green monsters with a crushing posture, he was very excited. This is the posture of the white-haired demon. Sure enough, the white-haired demon is the most powerful. At the same time, Sumyu, who had maintained the unlimited spell for a long time, heard the prompt from the system, "Unlimited spell experience +1, congratulations, unlimited spell upgrade. Please read and collect it." Exclamation mark. Chapter 23 There's only one white devil after all. Unlimited technique level 2, 1/300, interfere with atomic level matter, dominate space, The closer the object is to the user, the slower it will be, and it will never touch the user. A lot of information kept pouring into his mind, and Sumyu's proficiency in the unlimited technique increased rapidly. If the original unlimited technique had a maximum range of about 5 centimeters from the body surface, the level 2 unlimited technique doubled this distance, and the maximum range was now 10 centimeters from the body surface. In addition, because the unlimited technique is the foundation of the technique forward Kang and technique reversal He, the power of these two techniques has also been strengthened to a certain extent. Not only is the release speed faster, but the power has also been greatly improved. If the technique reversal He is used to attack the abomination at this time, it will surely penetrate his chest and abdomen directly, instead of knocking him thousands of meters away before penetrating his chest and abdomen. After negotiating the price of the abomination and the Hulk with Nick Fury, Sumyu waited on the spot. During the half hour he waited, all the armed members dared not approach, and only dared to monitor from a distance. Even the fearless General Ross did the same. From the process of capturing Hulk, he already understood the gap between himself and Hulk. At this time, facing Sumyu, who is even more powerful than Hulk, even if he had no brains, he would not waste his troops in vain. The mutants hiding around were extremely excited, staring at the white-haired figure in the center of the battlefield ruins. That was their god. The mutant god. For how long, mutants have been oppressed and hidden to carry out various cruel experiments, and now they finally stood up. Just standing there, hundreds of fully armed troops did not dare to move forward at all, and even dared not launch missiles. Because they knew that these attacks were completely ineffective, and could only anger the White Devil to kill them all. Shield speed was very fast. Not long after, a Quinjet flew from a distance. The leader of several agents was an old acquaintance, Agent Coulson. And behind him stood a man holding a bow and arrow, who looked like Hawkeye. At this time, Hawkeye looked at the white-haired man in front of him curiously, then looked around, and finally stopped on a huge gully that was thousands of meters long. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he really couldn't imagine that the white-haired man who looked thin in front of him actually contained such a terrifying huge energy. Sumyu ignored Hawkeye and said directly to Coulson, "That's Hulk and Abomination. You take over. Remember to use adamantium or vibranium to imprison them, otherwise it will be almost impossible to imprison them." Coulson looked at Sumyu talking freely, as if he was selling Hulk and Abomination as two ordinary commodities, and couldn't help but smile bitterly. The White Devil is so scary. His appearance undoubtedly destroyed the balance between mutants and ordinary humans. If we only think from the inside of the Earth, then he and the Nick Bureau would definitely not want a mutant like Sumyu, who is too powerful to exist. But if we judge from the entire universe, then Sumyu's existence is indispensable. After all, they know that there are more glorious civilizations in the universe, and the Earth is just a remote corner of the universe, which may be destroyed at any time. After Sumyu finished his story, he said to Coulson, "Agent Coulson, remember to transfer 200 million to my account. I'm leaving first." Then, without waiting for Coulson to answer, the blue spell power covered Sumyu's body, and he suddenly exerted force with his feet, leaped to the tall building next to him, and then used the wall of the tall building to gain leverage, and disappeared in an instant. Sumyu was not worried that S.H.I.E.L.D. would default on his money. These agents were all smart people, and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s director Nick Fury was even smarter. They would not make such a stupid choice. Seeing Sumyu go away, Coulson pressed the headset beside his ear and reported to Nick Fury. After a moment, he looked at Hawkeye next to him. "Agent Barton, what do you think of him?" Hawkeye was still staring at the direction where Sumyu left. The wall where Sumyu was using his strength was covered with dense and hideous cracks. Hearing Coulson's question, he was silent for a moment, and then said, "It is hard to imagine that this is the power that humans can possess. His power is so terrifying that it makes me feel unreal. I don't understand what the purpose of my decades of hard training is. If I fight him, I might be killed immediately and have no power to resist at all. My attack method mainly relies on special arrows, and the speed of the White Devil is even beyond my vision. It is also extremely difficult to hide him with arrows. Even if I can hide him, that terrifying defense." Hawkeye paused here, but Coulson understood what Agent Barton wanted to say. That terrifying defense is simply unsolvable. Only attacks from the same space can break through, and with today's technology, except for mutants with the same mutant abilities, how can we launch space attacks? Coulson patted Agent Barton on the shoulder and comforted him. "Agent Barton, you are already very strong. After all, There is only one white devil in the world. Yes, there is only one white devil. Dot. Tony was already waiting on the top of the tall building. Seeing Sumu return, he curiously circled around Sumu for a few times, and his steel eyes shot out lasers to scan him continuously. How did you do it? Facing those two monsters, you can easily win? Are you really human? Tony Stark finally couldn't help asking this question. Sumu smiled and said to Tony Stark, Tony, the world is big and also very exciting. Even if I am not the strongest now, there are many people on Earth who are stronger than me. Black Phoenix, Supreme Sorcerer, etc. You need to have a long-term vision. Really? Tony Stark questioned, but when he saw the smile on Sumu's face, his expression gradually became serious. He finally realized that this world is not as simple as he imagined. Even Sumu is not the strongest, so what kind of power do other strong people have? Dark Phoenix, Supreme Sorcerer. What are the identities of these powerful people, and what powerful abilities do they have? Wait, a magician? You mean there are magicians on Earth, extraordinary people who can cast spells? Of course. Tony Stark was shocked again, and then thought of Sumu's words just now. You said you are not their opponent now, will you win in the future? Yes. The same words as Gojo Satoru, the same confidence as Gojo Satoru, but Sumu, who has a system, is destined to have a different ending from Gojo Satoru. Sumu. Don't want to be cut in half. At the same time, Coulson, who was transporting Dr. Banner and the Abomination back to the space carrier, heard a new order from Nick Fury through the headset. A strange meteorite crater appeared in New Mexico. A hammer was placed in the center of the crater. No one could lift it up. Agent Coulson, you are responsible for exploring the hammer. After this mission, you will definitely be given a vacation. Coulson stroked his increasingly thinning hair, hung up the phone, and sighed. Hey, Director Nick, you have said this many times. Please read and collect it. Exclamation mark. Dear readers who see this, don't forget to invest. You can get Kidian coins for free. Chapter 24, Technique to Transform the Kang Level 3. Two major events have happened recently. The first major event is the Iron Man armor incident that has been unveiled some time ago. The truth came to an end with Tony Stark's I am Iron Man. From then on, the world entered the era of superheroes. This is an epoch-making event, but another major event is no less important than this one, and even more important. This major event is still about the white-haired demon, the terrifying level 5 mutant. The suddenly rising star in the news industry, reporter Eddie Brock, wrote in his latest report, an unprecedented terrorist attack occurred in Harlem some time ago. Two terrifying green monsters wantonly destroyed Harlem, ignoring the attacks of the fully armed army and killing civilians crazily. At this critical moment, the white-haired demon stood up. He easily defeated the two terrifying green monsters with a terrifying black and red singularity. But the white-haired demon is not a good person either. He deserves the title of demon. The black-red singularity attack he released instantly defeated a green-skinned monster, destroyed a large number of buildings, killed hundreds of civilians, and the aftermath of the attack destroyed the ground, finally forming a huge gully several thousand meters long. His harm is far greater than the sum of the two green-skinned monsters. Moreover, according to the analysis of the video recordings I shot before, the strength of the white-haired demon is steadily increasing rapidly. When he first used the black-red singularity, it was obvious that the black-red singularity was not stable, and according to the subsequent analysis of experts, he was probably seriously exhausted at that time, so he let go of the army that was besieging him. Now he releases the black-red singularity again, and the release speed is significantly increased. The black-red singularity is also obviously more stable than the initial one, and the attack power is also much stronger than the first time. As you know, the 5th level mutant is a mutant with unlimited potential, and the existence of the white-haired demon shows us the terrible potential of the 5th level mutant. I can't help but boldly guess that the strength of the white-haired demon at this time is still far from his limit. As time goes by, he will become stronger and stronger, and in the end he will even ignore nuclear bombs. I asked the military and the government again, how are you going to deal with the white-haired demon? Taxpayers' money cannot support incompetent waste. Please ask the military and the government to give a reasonable response plan. In the hidden base, Magneto put down the newspaper in his hand and smiled from the bottom of his heart. Mystique, who was standing by, was very curious about this. Since the plan to destroy humanity was formulated and repeatedly frustrated in subsequent actions, Eric didn't know how long he hadn't smiled from the bottom of his heart. So she looked at the newspaper on the table, and the reason must be there. After reading the newspaper roughly, she couldn't help showing shock on her face. Even if it is a level 5 mutant, the growth rate of the white-haired demon is too fast. Magneto, who was standing by, saw the shock on Mystique's face, straightened the mind helmet on his head, and said to Mystique with a smile, "Raven, it seems that without our guidance, the new power is still moving in the right direction, and our power is getting stronger." At the same time, in a hidden laboratory at Xavier's School for Gifted Youth, Professor X put down the newspaper and gently touched his brow. After a while, he said to the Phoenix girl beside him, "Jin, we have to try to contact him. He is gradually falling into darkness. If we ignore it, with his power, it will definitely cause irreparable losses." Jean nodded, but what Professor X didn't see was that there was a hint of red in her eyes that could not be dispelled for a long time. In a mansion in Los Angeles, the two protagonists who were watched by the world were sitting on the balcony sunbathing, and each of them was served by a beautiful woman. If there were fans, they would definitely see that these two beauties were actually the two Hollywood actresses who had recently become popular. The two protagonists at ordinary times became supporting roles at this time, and they didn't even have a line. "By the way, Sumu, before you go to Harlem, don't you have something important to tell me?" "So what is this thing?" Tony Stark suddenly asked Sumu. Sumu was wearing flowered shorts, drinking expensive red wine, and enjoying the service of the blonde. When he heard Tony Stark's question, he just remembered it, then stretched and said, "Is there something wrong with your body now?" Tony Stark's face froze, and he immediately forced a smile. "No, I'm in good health." Sumu smiled mysteriously, and did not refute, and said to Tony Stark, "As long as you have an unlimited supply of arc reactors when I need them, I will solve your physical problems." Tony Stark was stunned. "Is it that simple?" Seeing Sumu nod, he immediately said, "Okay, I agree." Sumu swallowed the cherry that the blonde placed at his mouth, and said with a soft hum, "Your current predicament should be palladium metal poisoning, so you have been drinking chlorophyll to relieve the symptoms of poisoning. If you continue to use the arc reactor made of palladium metal, you will definitely die in the near future." The two slim blondes subconsciously stopped serving and looked at Tony Stark in shock. The world's richest man, the playboy Tony Stark, was going to die? Seeing Tony subconsciously put the chlorophyll in his hand on the table and cover his chest to hide, Sumu immediately teased, "Don't be nervous, the new element is hidden in your home, in the building sandbox your father left for you. Look carefully, you will definitely find it with your wisdom. Goodbye, next time we meet, I will give you another piece of news while taking the arc reactor. Of course, it is also very important." Then, under the shocked eyes of Tony Stark and the two blondes, Sumu disappeared from the spot on the blink of an eye. Tony was stunned for a moment, then smiled helplessly and said, "This guy has become stronger again." At the same time, a sound of footsteps came from outside the door. Under Tony Stark's displeased eyes, Nick Fury walked in, and several black-clad agents behind him carried a silver box. A moment later, under the shocked gaze of Nick Fury, Tony Stark lay on the sun lounger and sneered, "Are you talking about the new element? I found it." In the distant sky, Sumu stood on the air, blood oozing from the corners of his mouth. The injuries in his body recovered quickly under the effect of the reversal technique. He said helplessly, "Even the LV3 technique of forward conversion can't be used continuously for teleportation? Even the LV3 energy absorption will be injured if it continues to bear the pressure caused by teleportation. It seems that we have to wait until the technique of forward conversion King is upgraded to LV4, or the energy absorption is upgraded to LV4, before we can use the technique of forward conversion King infinitely for teleportation. Just yesterday, by minimizing energy output and constantly practicing the technique of forward conversion King, the technique of forward conversion King was finally upgraded to LV3. Congratulations, the technique of forward conversion King has been upgraded. Spell forward King LV3, 1/1000, create a strong suction force, turn the distance between multiple objects into negative infinity, and create a small black hole at the moment of upgrading. Sumu's mind has an advanced use of the spell forward King. Through the strong gravitational force, compress the distance between the starting point and the end point to achieve a teleportation effect. So, just now, he took a step and instantly arrived dozens of kilometers away. Please read and collect it. Exclamation mark. Chapter 25 Emergency Meeting Against the White Devil. After the injuries in his body were completely healed, Su-Mu flew towards New York. For him at this moment, this distance was nothing. 2 arc reactors floated around Su-Mu under the effect of the unlimited spell. The huge energy released from them constantly helped him replenish his energy. There was even enough energy for the system to absorb and improve the template fusion degree. His main purpose of going to New York at this time was to kill Kingpin, the underground king who had caused him a lot of trouble when he first crossed over. The main reason for not looking for Kingpin at first was that he could not confirm his actions. Now that Six Eyes is about to be upgraded to level 3, and he has obtained teleportation and is extremely mobile, he can explore the entire Hell's Kitchen in a short time. Kingpin has nowhere to hide in front of him. On the way to New York, Su-Mu kept urging Six Eyes with all his strength to observe the surrounding scenery, and the experience value of Six Eyes was constantly increasing. Six Eyes experience +1, Six Eyes experience +1, Six Eyes experience +1. After arriving above New York, accompanied by the continuous prompts of the system, Six Eyes was upgraded to level 3. Six Eyes experience +1, congratulations, your Six Eyes skill has been upgraded, Six Eyes LV3, 1/1000, possessing a 360-degree long-distance perspective, able to see the flow of energy, amazing dynamic vision, allowing the holder to perform delicate energy operations, maximize energy, and reduce unnecessary energy loss. A warm current flowed out of his mind and then poured into his eyes. The already amazing visual range increased rapidly, from the initial 500 meters to 2,000 meters, a full 4 times increase compared to LV2. Within a range of 2,000 meters, everything is clearly visible. Even the perspective ability has been greatly enhanced, and it can pass through several solid walls and see the specific scenery behind them. Moreover, after upgrading to LV3, the Six Eyes has gained a new effect, reducing unnecessary energy consumption. In this way, Su-Mu's already long-lasting fighting time has been greatly improved again. After consuming all the information in his mind, Su-Mu grinned, took another step, and came to the sky above Hell's Kitchen. The game of hide-and-seek is about to begin. Horizontal ellipsis. In a hidden military base, the satellite radar suddenly sounded an alarm. In the office of the Supreme Commander, a well-trained soldier reported in a panic, "Report to the General, the satellite radar detected an unknown flying object flying towards New York at a high speed, with a maximum speed of Mach 5. What? The General was shocked. You know, the current maximum speed of a flying fighter is only about Mach 3. How could the speed of this unknown flying object reach Mach 5? Call up the satellite monitoring and lock the unknown flying object. I want to see what it is." As Tony Stark announced that he was Iron Man, more and more strange events have occurred recently, and all kinds of strange masked people are everywhere. Even if an unknown flying object with a speed of Mach 5 appears, the General will be too surprised. The soldier immediately controlled the satellite, focused the camera, and aimed it at the unknown flying object over Hell's Kitchen. When the scene on the screen was completely clear, they stared at everything in front of them in a daze. Even the General, who had encountered countless emergencies in his life, was stunned by the scene in front of him. A white-haired figure stood above Hell's Kitchen, his hands in his pockets, looking down at everything in front of him. This figure was very familiar to everyone present, because since the 3 reports were published, the military and the government have been under great pressure. In the past few days, all senior military officials have been studying intelligence about the White Devil, trying to find his weaknesses. However, after several days of sleepless research, all senior military officials desperately discovered that the White Devil had no weaknesses at all. Extraordinary physique, energy absorption, azure black holes, black and red singularities, terrifying space defense. This is an absolutely perfect mutant. In the end, many senior officials who worked hard to study finally found that the White Devil seemed to have no ability to resist mental attacks, and immediately sent messengers to negotiate with Professor X, trying to use the students in Xavier's school for gifted youngsters to force him to kill Su-Mu. However, they later heard Professor X say, "The consciousness of the white demon is like a chaos. I can't detect it at all, so naturally I can't attack it." Everyone didn't believe it until another mutant with psychic abilities who had defected to the military and had contacted the white demon said the same thing. Only then did they completely believe that even Professor X couldn't do anything to the consciousness of the white demon. This fact made the entire military at a loss. If even mental attacks can be perfectly resisted, then the white demon has no weaknesses? How could there be such a perfect mutant? Exclamation mark. Because of this incident, the senior military officials held an emergency meeting the day before yesterday. In the meeting, Colonel Stryker emphasized the danger of the white demon. He also talked about his growing ability and the possibility of ignoring nuclear bombs in the future. If that really happens, facing the godlike white demon, the government and the military will no longer have any power to resist, and the white demon will establish a new government. It is precisely because of this sentence that the military and government officials are determined to use large-yield nuclear weapons to kill the white demon and strangle the crisis in the cradle. But what is the situation now? Exclamation mark. Why did the speed of the white devil suddenly increase so much? Now it is close to the maximum speed of Mach 5, which is faster than the fastest fighter jet. How could it be hit by a nuclear weapon? What should they do now? Isn't the careful layout of the military leaders a joke? At this moment, they suddenly saw that the white devil in the picture suddenly looked up, as if he saw the surveillance satellite in outer space through a distance of tens of thousands of meters, and he smiled disdainfully. They subconsciously stepped back several steps, and the general almost stumbled, because the white devil in front of them seemed to be looking at them through the camera, and his appearance was right in front of them. The next moment, the white devil ignored them, took another step, and disappeared from the spot. The general's forehead was covered with countless cold sweats, and he kept muttering to himself, "No, no, the plan cannot be terminated. We must invest in a larger nuclear bomb and launch a devastating attack on the white devil, even if it means destroying a city." In just a few days, the white devil has become so terrifying. How far can it continue to grow? Is it really necessary to make him a god on Earth? Above Hell's Kitchen, Sumu looked up at the sky. He felt that he was being spied on. This was the instinctive intuition given to him by the 6 eyes that were promoted to level 3. However, Sumu did not care. It should be that the military discovered his whereabouts and used surveillance satellites to monitor him. He smiled kindly at the direction of the peeping that he intuitively sensed, and then took a step forward and disappeared from the spot. Jinbing is still waiting for him. Please read and collect it. Exclamation mark. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.